Today, we are going to be looking at this explosion of interest around emulation and what Nintendo might be feeling, and if they maybe have lost the battle with this already before it even started.
Yeah, it was big news when this emulator came out on the App Store for
Yes.
Apple devices, and that's bringing emulation to a whole new audience, and Nintendo can't be happy with this, but on the other side, I don't know exactly what they can do. So we're gonna look into this a bit more deeply.
Yes. It's going to be an interesting discussion. We also have a very special guest in this episode, Stealth40K, who is sort of, to me at least, the unofficial representative of the Nintendo fan community. A lot of pressure to put on our good friend Stealth here, but he seems to just be really tuned into what the Nintendo fans are feeling and wanting. And so we had a really good conversation with him about like, what is the state of the Nintendo community? How are they doing in this kind of down period now that Switch 2 is a bit delayed? And it was a really fun discussion, and we love Stealth, so we hope you enjoyed that segment as well.
Yeah, and this episode is sponsored by Squarespace. More from them in just a little bit. We have a lot of great stuff that is up on our YouTube channel that you should check out. So last week, we started showing off our game collection.
You cleaned out your garage again.
It's not in my garage. How dare you? I would never put it in the cold environs of the garage.
Oh, okay.
But last week we did Nintendo 3DS. Now we did Nintendo DS.
Yeah, it's so interesting because when you said, let's do this game collection, my immediate thought was like, let's do 3DS first because obviously you and I worked at Nintendo through the entire 3DS life cycle. So I thought like, we must have, that must be our biggest collection. That must be like the most interesting collection. And then when we did the DS video, I was like, I'm so wrong. The DS collection is like as big, if not bigger, and so much more interesting.
It was about the same size as far as games.
Yeah.
And then much more of a balance of third-party
Right.
and first-party games. You really get the sense doing those back-to-back of like, oh yeah, the 3DS was really carried by all the great first-party Nintendo stuff. And it's not to say there are not great first-party games on the DS, because there are, but like third parties were really there and supporting it, and having really quality teams and franchises putting out games that were really good.
Yeah.
But also just a lot of like oddities of like the Harry Hatsworth. Is it Henry or Harry? I never know.
It's Henry Hatsworth.
H Hatsworth.
H. Hatsworth.
Yes, H Hatsworth. Like that game, like made by EA. Like, come on, EA.
They're not making Henry Hatsworth
EA's like, are you
anymore.
joking? We should have, I'd like to retroactively cancel that game. Burn all the copies.
Oh, no. Not, poor little Henry.
No.
The thing is, too, is that, like, you had kind of an interesting career in the time of the DS as well, because you weren't at Nintendo yet.
Halfway in, I started, when the DS was out, I started at Nintendo.
So, but you were at, like, Konami and Namco, so you had, like, a lot of relics from that era.
Yeah.
We were both, obviously, before even working at any game company, we were just, like, Nintendo fans.
Yeah.
So we had collected some DS stuff as Nintendo fans. And then we just discovered so many rare games, so many rare sealed games, and so many signed games. I did not know that we had so many signed games in our collection. We are now locking this up in a safe, in a bank that you cannot get to. Don't even try.
It's not in my garage.
I have seen some comments about potentially heisting this office. I dare you. There will be lasers.
Don't!
I will personally
do not do that.
Eviscerate you if you come to this office and try to steal Henry Hatsworth.
You're going to be sleeping on the floor for the next month.
I'm going to be holding the axe in my lap as I sleep on the floor. the God of War axe. Don't come. But yes, it's such a cool, fun way to not only just remember our time working on these games, but remember that time of our lives early in the game industry. As little like game industry babies, and it's a great collection.
Yeah, so we're gonna keep going with those. We've made the playlist on YouTube for this, which means we are committed to it.
Some level of commitment.
I don't know what we're gonna do next. I'm feeling either Wii or GameCube, because we've done all handheld games.
I kind of want to do GameCube.
I think both of those are pretty good collections for us as well, so I could go either way. But yeah, we'll keep doing those.
Fun!
Right.
Exciting stuff.
And speaking of this like explosion of interest around retro games, we have a great Super Kitten Krysta coming up in a couple days where we're going to go to a retro game store. And, you know, we've done videos where we go and like check it out and just see what the vibe is.
Yeah.
This time, like, we're actually going to be talking to the person who runs the store about what it is like to run a retro game store.
Yeah.
And
seems like it's really challenging.
one of the reasons I want to do it is when I open up my YouTube, one of the videos that I get recommended constantly.
Yeah.
The thumbnail is this guy who's like behind the counter of a store and it's like, never open a used game store.
Oh, geez.
And I kind of want to learn, like, what are the trials and tribulations of doing this? What do you need to know? There's so much to it. Like, it's such a like unique kind of business. I like going to these stores, but I don't know how they work.
Yeah, I bet that there's so many just challenges in running a retro game store. Not only just the challenge of running a store in general, but like sourcing stuff, verifying if it's like,
or like
how
do you keep up to date on the prices?
Inventory of items and prices, and just keeping up to date with this like retro gaming community, because I think things have changed so much and they keep changing
fast.
Quickly. Yeah, exactly. So I'm really curious about this as well, and I just want to learn more about what it might be like to just do this day in and day out, you know?
And speaking of the challenges, you know, so we try to get these Super Kitten Krystas in the first half of the month. It's a little bit later for this one.
Yeah.
There was another store that we had in mind of doing this with.
I know.
That actually closed down as we were going through the process of talking to them about doing it. So we were like, oh, well.
So it must be hard.
Case in point, this is not easy.
It's not easy.
But I'm very much looking forward to this, and I think we're all going to learn a lot.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm doing some shopping also.
I want to do some shopping too.
I'm bringing my Wham.
I was thinking you have an analog pocket that you have to stuff with games.
That's right.
Your new GBA collection is
I have been
growing.
getting the eBay stuff coming in, but I feel like I might be able to get some better prices just at the stores. So I got a little shopping list.
I got my eye on
some stuff.
a physical copy of Fire Emblem Awakening too, because I realized that we don't have that one when we looked at our other collections. So I need to fill that hole in my life.
We also just passed the 35th anniversary of the Game Boy this weekend.
Yes.
Nary a peep from Nintendo about that.
Of course
I saw. Because I mentioned that because when it was the 30th anniversary, we did quite a lot.
That's right. You guys like pushed though for it. I remember the social team had a big push.
Yeah.
A poor member of the team, no longer at Nintendo, got yelled at a lot about it.
For what?
I
don't remember this. What happened?
He was telling me that it was really hard, and he had suggested a couple of things, and he got just a slap down. But then
not by me.
No, by Japan.
Oh,
of course, not by you.
But we did a lot.
And then but then they ended up approving some of the other things that you guys had in mind. So you ended up doing some form of recognition of a milestone. God forbid, Nintendo, you recognize one of your great historical milestones. I don't know why that's a big deal, but yeah, you guys did a lot for the 30th, and then, of course, nary a peep, as you said, from the 35th.
Yeah, I enjoyed seeing, again, not what Nintendo was doing, but, you know, what the community was putting out there. Because, again, the Game Boy is kind of the platform that I have my eye on at the moment, since I have the Pocket.
Yeah.
And, you know, but I have mixed feelings about I saw and experienced the Game Boy as it was coming out.
Right.
And I remember being underwhelmed by it, because I went to a friend's house, and this was a friend who, you know, we were into games together. He's like, "Oh, look at this thing I got. It's called the Game Boy." And I thought, "Oh, amazing! You can play Nintendo stuff on a handheld and take it with you." And I think he gave me the original Super Mario Land, and I was like, "I'm kind of not into this because
the color and
I can't see it. The ghosting is out of control. It's this
bad.
weird shade of green."
Right.
And Super Mario Land also, I think, is kind of an iffy game. So, but I mean, they totally powered through, and you know, by the end, they were making incredible games that were pushing that hardware so well, and like felt like they were full game experiences.
That was my first experience with the sneaking video games under the cover and then pretending, telling your parents that you went to bed or you're going to bed, but you're just under the covers playing Game Boy. That was like my first experience. Now people have phones and you can just do that, right? But like, I remember that was like my favorite thing was like, hee hee hee, my mom thinks I'm asleep, but I'm not.
Oh, no.
And then I had to like quietly, I didn't want her to hear me clicking the buttons, you know, so I would muffle it with like a pillow or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best way to play a video game.
Well, this is why you can't see now.
And I was just going to say, this is why I have really poor eyesight.
Like squinting as hard as you can.
Squinting at a puke green screen in the pitch blackness of my childhood under the covers bedroom.
This is the difference between you and me.
Now my corneas are just wrecked, but whatever.
Right.
Worth it. Anyways, it was such an interesting time in our lives. But yes, I also had the same feeling about Game Boy where it was like, but also like, this is cool that it's handheld, you know?
Yeah. Other big thing we got going on this week, not on our YouTube channel, but on our Patreon, is our Chrono Trigger spoiler cast is, I think by now, up or about to come out.
Yeah.
So we've recorded that. It was great. It's like an hour and a half, really going deep on the game. And, you know, with this game being an older game, we did get to look at some of kind of the historical angles of this as well and kind of compare it to, you know, how games get made now or, you know, what expectations for games are now and do a bit of comparison of like, how does it compare to what's happening at the moment?
You really had like the all-time just like deep philosophical thought.
Oh, I remember this,
Which really surprised me. I was like, wow, this is like some profound stuff that you had some thoughts and feelings coming out of Chrono Trigger. I was surprised by it. So you guys have to listen to hear Kit's like Socrates moment, you know, in the Chrono Trigger spoiler cast. I was very impressed.
We have audio versions of that. We have video version of that. If you're a Patreon subscriber with the notification squad and up levels, you get that included. Yeah. But you can also just go to our Patreon shop and pick it up as its own thing if you'd like to do that as well.
Yeah.
And we will soon be revealing the next spoiler cast game.
Yes. No, the May spoiler cast game.
I just said the next one.
My months are confused.
No, it is May.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah,
May.
We're wrapping up April and we're going into May.
Yes.
So yes.
Yes.
The June one is there's no doubt about it. It's
Paper Mario.
So
Avi,
we can't build suspense around that.
No, we can build suspense around other stuff,
we will build suspense around this one though.
Yes, there's some suspense. There's always suspense here at the Kit and Krysta.
And there may be disagreements between us that need to get resolved.
Again?
We only got two people. There's no tiebreaker. Oh. Sometimes you need a third person to be a tiebreaker. What if we're just butting heads?
Patreon community
I need it to be this. And you're like, no, I need it to be this.
Oh, I see what you mean in terms of the community is the tiebreaker.
I don't want to share too much dirty laundry, but maybe that's what's going on. As you awkwardly laugh.
Exposed!
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Squarespace.
Oh, great transition, yes. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform to help you stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your terms.
I had to do this. I had to literally build us a website, and I had no idea. Like, literally, you guys, I'm not like a web designer, and no clue what I was doing. So I used this Squarespace blueprint.
Made it easy.
It made it super easy. It has like this great guided design aspect to make it look nice. It's very like easy to drag and drop, move your text around. Easy to update because we've been updating our website with new content. Right. Yeah, I had no idea about how to build a website, and I was really nervous about it, but Squarespace made it super easy. So, yes.
I think that's the important thing is, you know, at Nintendo, we work with people who are like, I make websites for a living.
Yeah.
It's like, I could never do this. But no, Squarespace makes it super easy. Mm-hmm. Like, if you are a true novice, like we are, and this website is for our consulting business, which has been going great, and people love the website. They say it looks great, so that's great. Yeah, the visual design options.
I need that.
You know, it needs to work, but it also needs to look nice.
Exactly, professional, yeah.
Building in visuals, you know, videos, whatever sort of multimedia that you might have is super easy to integrate that into the site and make it easy for your user to, you know, see whatever it is that they want to see.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's not, you know, you need to know how this thing's doing.
Right.
So Squarespace has all these built-in analytics tools as well to see, what are people liking about your site? What are they really engaging with? And where might you need to continue to tweak it?
Yeah.
And even when you do, Squarespace makes that easy as well.
Exactly. We look at it all the time, and we make changes to our website based on the great analytics that this Squarespace is providing us, and is helping our website stay really professional and really successful for the great consulting business that we have.
That's right. So check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/KitKrysta to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Wow. We'll put the link right over here and also in the description below.
All right, a bit of a different flow for the episode today because we want to get into the news. So play the music.
Okay.
Emulators and the whole emulation situation with Nintendo. So yeah, the reason we wanted to talk about this is this launch of the Delta emulator on the Apple App Store, which kind of feels like has brought emulation into the spotlight in a way that it previously was not before.
Yes.
And obviously Nintendo has been, having this long-running battle versus emulation. There was everything that they were doing with the Switch emulator that got taken down was that just a few weeks ago? Or it feels like that was not that long ago.
Yeah, that was just like a month ago.
Right,
or something
right.
like that.
Obviously, that's a bit of a different situation because that is, based on the Switch. They're currently available product, and there were a lot of concerns of like, is this driving, all the piracy that happened of Tears of the Kingdom before that came out?
And then they decided that they actually, are connecting that to the loss of revenue, like the current loss of revenue.
Right.
And then also there was the Dolphin emulator that was supposed to be on Steam. That was also taken down.
Right.
And Nintendo definitely had a nice conversation there with Valve, and I think came to terms on that. So there's been already some churning, maybe some just like drama, at Nintendo around emulation because these things are happening.
Right. And Nintendo definitely has, a large, anti-piracy team. And, not all emulation involves piracy, but I think that they're always looking for whatever linkages they can find between them.
Yeah.
So I have to imagine it's been a busy week for that team really digging into the specifics of this. This Delta emulator is a little bit different than the ones that you just mentioned. I think it plays NES through DS is kind of the range of systems that it plays. So you're definitely not playing
a Switch game
on your phone, but it's definitely it's number one. I think as of we're recording this now, it's number one on the App Store as far as free downloads.
Yes,
and it has been getting a lot of very mainstream media coverage in a way that you typically don't see this sort of thing getting.
And I think that's the thing. Like a lot of people have said, like, oh, emulators have been available in the the Google Play Store or
on Android. So who cares?
Who cares? But there's a thing with it coming to Apple that makes it feel very mainstream, and I'll say it makes it feel very approachable for people that don't typically understand how emulation works. Which a lot of people I think are curious about it, but also get a little bit intimidated by, the different nuances with it.
Right.
Bringing it to a place like the App Store makes it feel very much like it's an approachable thing. And I think that's why it's getting so much press and getting so much conversation. And that is the thing when you bring it to a broader audience like this, when you make it feel accessible, that is what's going to scare Nintendo the most.
Exactly.
Because that is the exact audience that they are also wanting to capture for their own systems.
Right. I'd say up to this point, emulation has a large audience, but it is not really a mainstream thing.
Exactly.
Like, there is some amount of legwork that you need to do.
Right.
That
there's some barrier to enter.
If you're not tech savvy, you're not going to really...
Right. You're not going to know.
Forget this.
Yeah.
And, just by the nature of it being number one on the App Store, some people are going to click on this of like, oh, I should check this out. Just by browsing that, not even knowing like what this is. And then who knows, they could get sucked into it that way.
Right.
And then like, the media coverage is very... they don't talk about the details of like, well, what is the game that you're playing and how are you getting this game and all of that. There's just like... play retro games on your iPhone for free.
Yeah,
is going to be a message that gets people's attention.
Yeah, if you're saying that that's available to you, maybe you'll be more interested to find out like how that can be available to you.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're just like clicking through like on, The Verge or any of these other kind of like big mainstream sites, and that's a message that you see, you're like, oh, you can do that? I should look into that.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could do that.
I'm sure some amount of the people are still going to drop off because of, whatever you have to do to get it working, but there's going to be some number of people that previously were not doing this that now are.
Exactly.
And I think that's Nintendo's big concern is if this becomes mainstream, if this becomes the norm, if this just becomes something that the general public does, you've kind of lost.
Exactly. That's the thing. I think this is the first time, at least that I felt, where it feels that way. Like it could potentially become this mainstream thing. Now, I looked at this Delta thing too, and I was very curious about it. And they do a very careful job of not, like they have a little FAQ, right? When you try to add a game.
Yeah.
And they link you to somewhere else where it's not about pirating the game. It's about, potentially like taking a cartridge that you have and taking the data off of it and putting it into your Delta app.
Right.
So it's like you already own that game, so you're just like kind of digitizing that version of it.
Right.
So they're really careful about that. I think some of the other lawsuits that Nintendo had where the link from emulation to piracy was very clear.
Yeah.
Delta is doing a pretty good job of not linking it to piracy, which really makes it hard for Nintendo, I think, to have legality around taking it down.
Right.
And I think that all of this and the fact that it's feeling very mainstream and very accessible, the fact that they are not connecting it directly to like, here's a piracy website for you to download the ROMs, is probably making Nintendo really, really nervous and mad because they probably would love to shut it down, but they kind of can't.
Again, what can you do?
What can you do?
I watched, as I was getting up to speed for this episode, I watched an interesting video from our friend Bob Wolf of Wolfden, who's very in on this community.
I learned a lot.
And he was pointing out some information that Nintendo has, I think, on their website or somewhere. You mentioning that point of like, if you take the game off of the cartridge, then that's okay.
Yeah.
Apparently, Nintendo has a different point of view on that. And he was pointing out, he's like, this is actually not the law, but this is more their perspective.
I see.
But I think that's what clouds this whole situation. Is like the legality of it is very muddied.
Right.
It's muddied across different regions as well. Like so that so this is the first emulator on the App Store. Apple has held out for many years, where obviously Android had not. And there were a number of cases happening in the EU that people were pointing at and saying, well, this is why they are allowing this now. Like, it's honestly a little bit beyond me, but there are some like third-party app stores that I think they're required to offer now in the EU, which was driving that. So there is no global
regulation around it,
or perspective that is entirely unanimous on it. So it is like. It's like games of whack-a-mole embedded in games of whack-a-mole.
Exactly.
Where it's like impossible to start to untangle, which is, again, going back to the point of if you can keep this niche, maybe we can tolerate it and we can go after the big things. But if grandma's doing this, you can't stop it.
Right. If it's going to spread like that, if it's going to become so accessible and easy to just anybody off the street and not someone that's technically savvy, not Bob Wolf who knows everything there is to know about this, the space and this community, then what's going to stop people from doing this?
Right.
Especially if, and we're talking about specifically Delta, which is like you said, playing retro games. Especially if Nintendo is not really good about putting retro games on their current gen systems and making it very difficult for you to get access to retro games.
Right.
It makes it even more appealing if it's very mainstream and very easy and very accessible for you to say, like, well, you're not letting me play it any other way, so I'm going to play it this way, you know?
That's another point I've been seeing people make, which is like, well, if they were more active of putting these games up on the service that they have that is intended for classic games, then maybe this sort of thing wouldn't take off. I go back to maybe this is the second profound thing I'll say. This phrase that you hear sometimes: nature abhors a vacuum, and it's like you have created the vacuum.
Yeah. So it's a vacuum of your own making.
Right, and the world does not like this. And it's like
it seeks balance.
Where there's obviously people are interested in these games. People want to play these games.
Yeah.
So if you are not going to be proactive in putting them out there, I think a lot of people feel like, well, what am I?
Why should I defend you? Why should I not do this? Right. Give me the reasons to not do it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's an interesting kind of wrinkle to it.
Right.
Of you have this service. You have some stuff on it.
Yeah.
You could probably be much more focused on building that out and making that a super compelling selling point, but you just haven't done that, and you've maybe even backslid over the years from the days of the virtual console where there were way more games available.
And you're like slowly losing your audience's trust and belief that you're going to continue with backwards compatibility, you're going to continue to support retro games, you're gonna not like be greedy corporate company and like hold back a retro game and not release it because you want to make more money off of it later. Like those things feel dirty to people, and at some point some people are just gonna be like, I'm over this. If I'm gonna have another easy way, accessible way to do this, then I love you, Nintendo, but I'm gonna do it.
Right.
Right. And I kind of understand that perspective, honestly. Like I understand the people that think like that. Like I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me. So what do you think inside into like what do you think that they're doing right now? They're like researching this, obviously, kind of keeping up to date.
Somebody's going through a very large book of the law, like reading up on like, wait, what exactly does it say? Because again,
the law.
It's extremely the book says the law, and they're reading it closely. So the emulator software in and of itself is fine.
Right.
Like there's nothing wrong with that. It's when you start to bring in the copywritten games that you're getting through these sketchy means. That's when there starts to be a problem.
Yeah.
So as far as this app being on the App Store, I don't know if you can do anything about that.
Right.
What you could do is you could pick up the phone and talk to Apple, who is your close-ish business partner.
Close-ish.
And say, hey, I'm not sure that you are fully plugged into the impact this is having on our business. Let me tell you how this is creating a ton of headaches for us.
Yeah.
And, again, maybe you can't outright take the thing out, but maybe there are more safeguards that you could put in place to, make sure that these, I don't know if you can even do this, like these types of games can't be played, these certain games that are ours.
Yeah, maybe there's like an error message,
I don't know. You can't play those, or more like, it's like buying like a pack of cigarettes or something. It's like
Surgeon General warning.
This is bad, like that kind of thing.
You are about to break the law. Maybe, yeah. The other thing that we were just thinking about too is, usually Nintendo is a very powerful voice in the room. Like they're Nintendo. They're like Mario, and like they have this huge presence from a brand perspective. And when things like this happen, scary Nintendo lawyers can come in and intimidate people into stopping what they're doing.
Yeah.
Guess who's scarier than Nintendo?
Yeah.
Probably Apple.
Right.
Like.
Yeah, it's like, they have unlimited resources.
Yeah, it's like a multi-billion-dollar company.
Have all sorts of experience being in these cases, winning these cases.
Yes.
And they just did this huge thing with Fortnite.
Yes.
So, which basically resulted in them kicking Fortnite to the curb. So again, it's like, I don't think they'd have any problem kicking Nintendo to the curb too. Of like, hey, these are our business policies. Don't get in the way of this business. You're great, but see you later.
Yeah, like we're happy to have your stuff in our app store.
Right.
But you're not the only one in our app store.
Yeah, if you're going to be causing problems, and it's like it's not that big either. It's not like that. Yeah. It's not like it's bringing in like probably Fortnite was for them.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure Fortnite was bringing in a lot more money than Pocket Camp.
Oh.
Right, so you can't really do those same kind of like tough guy tactics.
Which they
with them.
do on the legal side.
Right,
Like
when
they do
you're,
a lot of intimidation tactics.
Yeah, when you're going after the Switch emulator guys, like they're going to be freaked out.
Yeah, well, they're like 2 people. So
when they get that phone call, like Apple's just like, I'll call you in like 3 weeks. I don't care.
They're not even going to pick it up.
Yeah, straight to voicemail.
Hi, Tim, this is Furukawa-san. Well, so...
Right, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be their first, line of action.
Yeah.
Of let's work the diplomacy angle.
Oh, yeah.
With Apple. But again, they have reasons for now allowing this on their app store.
Right.
And they're tied up in this bigger web of stuff
with
all this regulation.
EU and regulations there. And
I'll be honest, the third-party app store stuff confuses me greatly.
Yeah, I think it's so they don't become a monopoly, I don't know.
Sure.
You know what? Let's not get there. Let's not go there. We're not global,
You're gonna get actually
international
in the next Tuesday in these comments. Yeah.
That's fine. I'm open to the actually. Yeah. I don't know. I have a very cursory knowledge of this.
Yeah.
But it is very confusing, and they are obviously the experts. Apple, that is the experts in knowing what they need to do from a business practice perspective to keep it all above board for them and do what's best for them. Every business is looking out for themselves, obviously. I don't have to tell you guys that. But when you're the bigger fish, like Apple is, and you have...
That's what you can do when you're the bigger fish.
That's what I'm saying.
You can throw your weight around.
You can throw your weight around. You can take these kinds of risks at the risk of maybe making another big brand mad at you. You kind of don't care. Whatever. I am a multi-billion-dollar company. This is just an ordinary day for me. And then I think Nintendo is taking it quite differently because for them, it's a really big deal for them. It's a really big impact on their brand, their business, the future of their business, the future of the audience that they're going to want to go after, especially with Switch 2 on the horizon. And also just they want to make sure that they kind of set this precedence too. I think this is why they do these lawsuits, is they want to scare you into not doing this.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that they kind of put out this message there is going to be consequences if you do this.
Right.
And if they're not able to do that, I feel they're really antsy about it. They're not feeling good about it.
I started to see some parallels between this situation and Pal World also earlier in the year, where they couldn't do, I think, what they wanted to do, which was drop the bomb. And, again, there was this kind of very intricate legal detail of to what degree is something being ripped off, and to what degree can you do something about it?
The legal gray area.
They also had the backing of a big partner in Microsoft, who you don't want to get entangled. The thing you're actually angry with. It's like the little guy standing behind the big guy. You want to get at the little guy, but the big guy's in your way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you need to be careful with that. And I think about what they did in that situation was, they started to get more proactive in going after other Pokemon mods, other things like that.
Right.
To I think send a message.
Mods.
Right. To send a message.
Yeah.
Of you can't do this. We're going to be active where we can. So I wonder if they're going to follow that strategy.
Right. Maybe taking down smaller, more direct linked piracy.
Or the places where these games are. If you take those out, then it's if you can't get those games, then this is more okay.
Yeah. The thing with that is that, it takes time to do that.
Sure.
There's a lot of things that you need to do. You can't just be all right, we're shutting you down. See you never in 24 hours. This is all going to happen. They're going to have to work at some of this stuff. And it's, to your point, it is even when you're taking down the smaller things, it's a crazy whack-a-mole situation.
Right, you can never delete this from the internet.
No, you're never going to delete it.
Something else will take its place.
Yes, exactly. You take one down, they'll just start another company with a different name that does the same thing.
Right, so that's the thing that is really challenging for them kind of pursuing their interests in this situation.
Yeah.
The other, so again, going through the list of things that Nintendo could do, could always just be a bit more proactive of putting some games up on the old NSO.
I was just going to say, what the greatest thing they can do is get some of that fan, goodwill back
Yeah.
Like, instead of being the scary corporate Nintendo where you're just like pouty and wanting to swing the big stick around, even though your stick is much smaller than Apple's stick, like, just do what you can do. Control your circle of control is what you can put in your own consoles, right, on your own platforms. So like maybe just do that and like, hey, release some more NSO games of
Write the check to Square Enix. Just do it already.
They need money. They probably don't even need that big of a check to be honest.
The check.
Like 6 figures, you know?
Sign it up for the Switch 2 too. Just this is just going to roll over, Square Enix. We're just going to have this. There we go.
A rolling note, a rolling bank note.
Just think ahead a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many options for them to...
Unfortunately, I feel like that's the last thing on their mind, because if they do, it will be perceived as a response.
Right.
And they never want it to be seen like that. Of like, no, we're doing this on our own schedule.
Yeah.
Everybody's being real macho, you know?
That's what I'm saying. They got the sticks. They want to swing it around.
Oh my gosh.
But it's true. Like, they don't want to be perceived as like the weak party, you know?
Right. Of like, we got pushed around. We got
bullied into this.
Right.
But I think no community Nintendo fan would see it like this. They would just see it as like, oh, that's great. Like, Nintendo's finally doing this. You know, maybe a little bit of pressure was good for them.
But looking like they've been influenced by some outside thing or
like
source
the worst thing for
would
them.
Be like, is such a no-go for them.
Yeah. They would probably dig their heels.
Now we're going to go months without getting anything.
I was going to say, they might dig their heels in even deeper just to prove a point. Like, you want to bully us? Or no games for you.
They're HQ deleting the source code for all these games.
Oh.
Like, no, if we can't have them, nobody can.
Oh my God, that's a horrible thought. I hope don't do that. Seriously, Nintendo, it's okay. It's going to be all right. Don't do that. Don't be rash. But yeah, they can very much react like that. Like, they hate being caught sort of on the back foot. They hate being, put in a position where they feel like something outside is influencing their decisions. They hate that, things are becoming mainstream because that's their audience and they want to make games mainstream for them and no one else can do it. So all of these things they do not like, and I think it's making them pretty mad. But they can't do anything about it.
So we should say, as of now, as of us recording this, they have not had any kind of official response. And actually, I'm going to take a quick look.
Oh boy, do a quick scan.
And see if something has come out.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely something that they need time to talk about, need time to get their story straight.
Exactly.
Check with these lawyers who need to read the book of the law for the umpteenth
It could be
time.
more volumes than one book. Many volumes of a book called The Law.
Right. So I'm not seeing...
I don't think so.
I'm not seeing anything. So
you're scrolling and all I'm seeing is Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Woof.
I'm pretty sure that we will eventually get them to say something. I'm pretty sure it will be a very... We reserve the right to protect our all that stuff.
Yeah, some legal mumbo jumbo,
Right.
But it is one of those things where I think they will do anything anything that they can right now to just sort of protect the brand image.
Right. The other thing I wanted to say about, again, going to that point of it's becoming mainstream, there's a lot more like devices that just do this now. So obviously you gave me the Analog Pocket, you gave me the Steam Deck, you've really given me a lot of stuff.
Well, it was your birthday.
As I have been searching of how to do, learn how to, do stuff on these devices, there is so much of here's how to play your old, play your retro games for free on your Analog Pocket, play your retro games for free on the Steam Deck.
Okay.
And then it's there's all these other devices, imported from China. And it's that's what they are made to do.
That's been around for as long as gaming's been around. There's been devices that have existed to do that.
Right.
I think they still haven't become as mainstream as an app on your iPhone that everyone has.
No, that's as mainstream as
you can
as
get.
It gets. But it feels
those things exist.
It has been edging in this direction for a while.
Right. I mean, they're out there. So, yeah, I mean, it makes it easier and easier and easier for you to have access to something like this. And again, I think all of these things really scare Nintendo a lot. But they also kind of have limited things that they can do about it. So so it's just going to be interesting to see how they respond, and see how just kind of all of this develops. And I'm definitely going to be looking at this closely.
So we asked our Patreon community what they think Nintendo will do to react to this. We did a poll. 50%, half of all people said diplomatically discuss the issue with Apple behind the scenes. Okay?
Yes.
Let's see, 25% said be mad but do nothing since it's hard to beat Apple.
True. Very true.
Be mad, just fume in the corner.
Be mad. Yes, be very mad. I'm very mad right now.
16% said Nintendo versus Apple is coming to a courtroom near you. We're going scorched earth on this thing.
Oh, geez.
And then finally, I love how this was the lowest option. 9% said be more proactive in releasing classic games.
That's so sad that the most passionate Nintendo fans that I feel like are in our community,
I think that is hilarious,
have really lost faith in this option.
Yeah.
That says something, though. It's actually quite sad. It makes me sad because it's like, they have such a passionate fan base that they could easily make them happy by doing this thing that's pretty easy. You have the games, you have a service, just put them out there. Seems easy to me, but obviously, it seems like the fan community has really lost faith in Nintendo even doing that, you know? So that's really sad.
And we actually have a community member who is very notable and knowledgeable in this circle, Luigi Blood, so I wanted to include a comment from them. I'm torn between discuss the issue and do nothing, as I really don't expect Nintendo to be more proactive with the classic game releases on NSO, as I'm sure Nintendo thinks that making updates just about every month, regardless of the app being updated, is enough for them. And I don't expect this to go to court either. Delta is emulating systems that don't have any real protections, unlike the Switch emulators.
Oh.
So there's another important distinction.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Riven says, I expect there will be some private discussions behind the scenes, but that nothing will particularly change. Legally speaking, Apple isn't doing anything wrong, and they're not going to set a precedent of other companies telling them what to do.
Very true.
Very
that's
true.
What we're saying, yeah.
Mind your business. vgmlife says, Apple clearly didn't want emulators on the App Store, or we would have had them years ago, like the Android folks. Nintendo may not like the situation either, but Apple will just tell Nintendo to take it up with the EU regulators that think a walled garden approach is anti-competitive.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So again, it's like you can just
point fingers.
Point endlessly.
Not us.
Endlessly.
Not our problem.
We have to do this because of this obscure law in this place.
And then you're going to do Nintendo. You're going to take down the EU
You're going to take down the EU. Yes. That's what we're going to do.
Next step, we're taking down the EU. Okay.
Final comment from Mr. Andy Pong. I just wanted to add that I've tried out this new emulator on my iPhone and I'm having a great time. In fact, I remember playing Pokemon on emulators nearly 20 years ago now, but I've also bought every single Pokemon game, remake, and Virtual Console re-release. And yet, sometimes these emulators are just a better experience, especially for older games. If Nintendo or Game Freak in this scenario decided to re-release these games, but with the modern features emulators have, like sped-up gameplay, save backups, and quality upscaling, I would gladly pay money for it on the Switch. I've certainly given them enough in the past. They could very easily solve this issue for themselves by simply providing an experience equal to or better than current emulators.
There you go. It's a very reasonable ask, you know? It's like, this is the modern way that people want to play these games. You have these games, you want to sell these games, and you should make these games this way. So that makes sense to me.
I don't think, we didn't have it in our news last week, but there was that whole story about how Xbox is starting this team about game preservation.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is interesting for them to have, people really dedicated to that. Whereas, again, it's like if you ask who's in charge of the retro game strategy at Nintendo?
There isn't.
Perhaps nobody?
No one. There isn't.
I would suggest.
I'm telling you, no one.
Yeah, look up this person on the little company intranet. Nobody.
Oh, intranet. The org chart.
Yes, look this person up.
That person doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So that's another sort of missing link is now that you're have this huge audience of people that kind of expect this type of experience or want badly this type of experience. Like if you want to capture that audience, you're going to need to do some work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue on with our news. Bit of a bummer for our upcoming Japan trip is the Super Nintendo World Donkey Kong country area has been delayed.
It's been delayed.
Oh, no. So it was previously scheduled to open this spring.
Yeah.
We're well into spring now. Now they are saying
Late
2024.
Oh.
So
We'll see.
We might be missing that one when we make our trip.
We are going later this year. I wouldn't say it's late.
No, if it's like December, we're missing.
We're not going to be in Japan in December. But that's okay. We'll still get to see this Yoshi ride, which we didn't get to see at Universal in Hollywood. But a bit of a bummer. I kind of was wondering when we'd hear next about this, because it had been a long time since we saw that announcement of this opening, and then we hadn't heard anything. And I was wondering if they were changing the date or something like that. But I guess it's
Museum too. We're getting, I think they said end of March it'd be done, and it sounds like maybe they need more time with that.
Maybe.
So that's the one I really need to be open.
Yeah, that one I think is maybe a better shot of keeping to the schedule.
I need that.
I know.
Hades 2. Whoa, things are happening with Hades 2 all of a sudden.
How exciting! I love Hades.
So they are currently doing a technical test, which they say is a key step leading up to their early access launch. And that has been going on. People have been playing the game. We have not been a part of that. We probably could be if we wanted to.
Yeah.
I
don't want to.
So yes, I want to ask you, how do you want to play this game?
I want to play this game when it's perfect and when it's done.
You want to wait until the full release?
I do.
Even if that's next year, or you don't really care?
I mean, I have so much trust in this team to make the most amazing game ever. Like, we both play the heck out of Hades 1.
Yes.
And I'm fine waiting. Like, this is really for people that I think, these people are helping the Supergiant team make this game better.
Yeah.
And I don't want to work on it. I just want to play the game when it's perfect, and enjoy the full, optimized experience. That's what I would prefer, and I'm happy to wait.
I was in that boat.
Oh.
But I think the temptation of early access could be pretty high. With a lot of other games, it's like, well, what is your path to a full release, and how much am I going to have to put up with that doesn't feel like a finished game?
Yeah.
I feel like they know the position that they're in, where they were a legitimate Game of the Year contender, and there's a lot of eyeballs on this.
Yeah.
And they probably recognize, this needs to be really good, because people are going to be judging it
against
such.
The other,
and there's going to be such a bigger audience than most early access launches get.
Of course.
So I'm now rethinking what I am feeling about it, and when early access happens, I might be tempted to get in on that, and that can be fun to experience things as they get changed, or as new features get added. I did follow what they were adding in the original Hades early access, and it was now we've added this weapon, now we've added this thing, and that could be a fun way to experience this game leading up to it actually coming out, especially since we got this lull right now.
I know, that's true.
Where that could be a really fun thing to
fill some time
experience. So it seems like this game just came kind of out of nowhere. We knew there was going to be something big happening with it this year, but it was just boom, they announced this technical test, and then based on everything that they're saying, the early access is really close.
Yeah, people seem to be really, really excited about it as well after playing the technical test. Seem to be really positive. Not surprised at all, because this studio in this game is amazing. So I'm of course it's awesome. But I think they do a good job. This is a precedent that they set with the first Hades, where they had all these early access tests as a way to improve the game and really just tune the game so that it was perfect at launch. But people say that those experiences with the early access was really fun too. Mm-hmm. So one of us should try it. Maybe it's you.
I'll do it. Well, you don't really have a way to do it.
You can volunteer as tribute.
They're not doing early access on the Switch.
No, that's what I'm saying. You can do it on your Steam Deck.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do that.
Go for it.
There we go.
And we did so much fun Hades 1 stuff with Greg Kasavin and Darren Korb on Nintendo Minute. We gotta...
Yeah, you should watch those videos. Oh, wait.
Sorry. Okay, well, anyways. Downer.
Oh, wait.
Gosh, those videos were so good. That's so sad.
Yeah.
But yes, I would love to just catch up with those guys again because
Yeah.
they're amazing. They're here in the Bay Area too. So.
Last story. There's breaking news about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh boy.
Keanu Reeves cast as Shadow the Hedgehog in Sonic 3. I saw also the Knuckles show is starting.
There's a Knuckles show?
I'm not watching that, but yes, there's
that.
a Knuckles show on the I think
is
it's
it
the
Idris
Paramount.
Elba?
Yeah.
Is voicing the Knuckles in the Knuckles show and movie.
That's all I know about it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, he's very hot, so that's good.
Again, I don't. So there's been this big resurgence in Shadow, and obviously Shadow had his own game,
right?
In like the PS2, GameCube era. That, from my perspective, like everybody thought that game was a joke. I need people to explain this to me. So do people actually like Shadow, and the game was bad?
But the character was good?
I mean, the character seems a little cringy to me. It's Sonic with a gun. So I need an explanation of how do people actually feel about Shadow. I think Keanu Reeves is amazing casting.
Yeah.
I've been very impressed with everything they've been doing with these movies. I'm on board with these movies. We watched the first one.
It's good.
It's very solid.
Yeah, it's really fun.
I still need to watch the second
one. The second one is really good too. I really like the second one.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a great job of kind of building up the world and all these characters from movie to movie.
I can see Keanu Reeves is like, I don't really know too much about the Shadow
He's
character.
going to do the John Wick voice.
I was going to say, maybe he can just do the John Wick voice.
Other shoot sounds.
Yeah, exactly. Like the gruff action hero.
Right. So I give them props for this. I mean, Shadow is also in the new game that they have coming out this year. So people say like, oh, it's the year of Shadow the Hedgehog.
Okay.
But again, as somebody who has kept all of this at arm's length for my entire life, I'm ready to ask the question of what is the actual perspective of Shadow the Hedgehog?
Exactly.
I'm curious.
Very curious.
All right. We are moments away from our great segment with Stealth 40K, but we got another great sponsor to shout out. This episode is sponsored by the Kirby Conversations podcast.
Yay! Love this podcast.
I am always on the lookout for great new gaming podcasts to listen to, and this is my new favorite. I listen to every episode. They have a new episode every other week.
Yep.
It's a great trio of people on it every episode, including our very good friend, Captain Dangerous.
Yes! We love Captain Dangerous. Obviously, we worked with her a ton when we were at Nintendo, but she is one of the 3 hosts on this very fun Kirby podcast. They talk about everything Kirby, the history of HAL, Kirby and Smash Brothers, and other related topics as well. But each topic sort of dives really deep on one aspect of Kirby, and I'm finding myself learning so much about Kirby listening to this podcast. We played Kirby Superstars on our recent stream because of this podcast.
This was the motivation.
Yeah.
Again, for whatever reason, we had not played that game, and they did a whole episode devoted to one of the segments of Kirby Superstar, and we thought, oh my gosh, they really broke this down in a very helpful, informative,
and then,
fun,
of course,
fun way.
It piqued our interest, and we immediately were like, let's go play this game. It's so fun.
I saw their upcoming episode is going to be about the music of Kirby. Somebody really notable in kind of the music community is going to be a special guest on that one, so that should be really great. They also have a Patreon where you can get exclusive content. You can get Captain Dangerous merch, and Captain Dangerous is just like an insanely talented person, doing miniature photography and so many other things.
You want the merch, trust me.
Right. So we'll have all the links for the Kirby Conversation podcast in our description, and really hope you check it out.
Yeah, we'll put the links here and also in the description below.
All right. Time to talk to Stealth 40K, so here we go.
Welcome to our special guest, Stealth.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so you have sort of become the unofficial face, spokesperson, representative of the Nintendo fan community. I'm not sure if that's a job that you went out to get or even want, but that's kind of how people see you now, which is kind of exciting and cool. But we're gonna talk all about sort of you and what you do, and sort of you being that representative for the Nintendo fan community, and maybe the pressures of that, and what Nintendo can do to connect better with their community as well.
Well, maybe that's a good place to start, which is, Krysta, you just said a lot of things. Stealth, do you agree with everything she just said?
That's a lot of pressure.
That's what I think when I think about you, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I game on a variety of different platforms, but over the years, I've just enjoyed talking about Nintendo news, Nintendo rumors, and as it turns out, a lot of people like talking about that stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely watched your, presence online really grow during our years at Nintendo. Like, when did you start to feel like, hey, I'm getting kind of a big following, people I don't know, people are paying attention, the stuff I'm posting is getting retweeted. When did that start to happen for you?
Probably most at the start of the Switch generation, so 2017, I'd say. I would talk about the Switch's launch, what we thought the Switch would have when it was first the NX, and all that sort of stuff. And that's kind of when I gained a larger following, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that era, everybody was just so excited again for Nintendo anything. So a lot of people started to like talk more about Nintendo in that era. And yeah, I think even when we were inside Nintendo Minute got a huge bump because of the Switch too. So like externally and internally, we saw the Switch effect, as they say, on all of our like social media things, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's like, on the Switch, so many series have had this big resurgence. Krysta was saying we really took off, and you've seen, other people, really make their presence known. So it's like we're all experiencing that console generation effect to some degree, And
now we're experiencing the lull of that effect.
So, I think one thing about, that's interesting about you is, you don't do this full time. You have like a proper job, but you do get recognized by all of these companies like Nintendo. We were definitely keeping an eye on what you were saying. We've seen you doing, getting games to do giveaways for. Like, do you ever get surprised that these companies are like taking note and, officially like taking part of what you have to offer?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely surprised recently when I was mentioned in Nintendo's lawsuit.
Oh yes, I saw that.
Yeah, where
it's a little scary, but also like maybe flattering.
Yeah, where we get messages like, "Hey, Nintendo messaged you in a lawsuit," and then I started sweating. I was like, "What?" But yeah, like I made some really just offhand tweet about how much I like the surprise of when games launch, and sometimes when games are pirated, it ruins that a bit, just offhand. And then that just ended up in their lawsuit as they mentioned me as like, and me and a bunch of other people as upstanding Nintendo citizens. So yeah, it's definitely a little surprising when when you don't think you're under scrutiny like that.
Does that kind of change your mentality or make you think twice about anything that you might post, knowing, hey, who's actually going to be looking at this?
Yeah, don't tweet about piracy anymore.
Yeah.
Keep those thoughts to yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
What you're very prolific at posting on Twitter. Like, what is your motivation to post so much? Do you ever have a day where like, yeah, I just don't want to do this? Because it is a lot, and you are coming at it from some really interesting angles.
Yeah, I really try and just tweet about what I care about, what I find interesting. So, there is even Nintendo news that, I don't necessarily want to comment on or feel like I have anything to say about. And yeah, especially on, Nintendo Direct days with showcases, I'm tweeting a lot because there's a lot of game announcements. But, on days when there isn't a lot going on, I might not comment at all. It really just kind of depends on what's happening in, the gaming sphere.
Yeah.
You're my one and only source for Nintendo Direct historical dates. Whenever I need a Nintendo Direct historical date, I know where to go. I always go to your Twitter. I'm like, I know he has it. Sometimes when I think about it, you would have tweeted it like minutes before. So I'm like, he's thinking about it too, So I like the way that you kind of put not only like the like the news du jour on your channel, but there's a lot of like historical background and things like that. You just tweeted about the anniversary of the Game Boy. So I think that's a good, a way to kind of encapsulate Nintendo news and also like a little bit of Nintendo history as well.
Yeah, especially in June when there's so much speculation about when all these showcases happen. I'm like, they always happen in June. And so I have to post like 10 years of Nintendo Directs happening in June. It's not 10 years, but it's pretty close. So I do that pretty much every June. I think that's one of the tweets you're referring to. Where it's not, there's not that much. Nintendo likes a surprise, but especially in the Switch generation, they've definitely fallen into a patterns of early year Direct, June Direct, September Direct, and not much has really changed outside of that, depending on if it's a bigger one or a mini, depending on what they want to do.
Yeah, that pacing is really interesting because when we were at Nintendo, like there's no like mandate of like, well, it's September, we have to have a Direct. It just kind of worked itself out that way. So for us, it never felt like it was on such a set pattern. But seeing someone like yourself really lay it out like that, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. People are, humans are all people of habit. I think creatures of habit. So even Nintendo has fallen into that. I do wonder though, sometimes if they have seen tweets from you and others that have like sort of worked out the patterns and like to your point, they love to, the surprise and delight. They love that. So I do wonder like now that they're going potentially into this new console generation, if they might want to change it up a bit to like keep it surprising, or maybe they're just like, no, we're good. We're just going to settle into this routine that we have that works,
Yeah. And, I think we all assume a new Nintendo system is coming in the near future. So they'll probably have, a very specific showcase for that. So whenever that happens, whatever Direct might have happened in a regular kind of cycle might change.
Exactly.
So I'm probably going to say it's definitely going to happen in June or September, and then something changes or something, flips because of that. So but it's definitely going to be interesting because the Switch showcase happened in Japan, and then it was kind of broadcast everywhere. And, you could kind of definitely tell it was more of a Japan focused event. There was kind of the translator who kind of got famous. But
that one. It was also like 11 o'clock at night. We were in New York City because the next day was the hands-on event. And we were like, should we give like media, like they can come in their jammies, we can like have a
like a slumber party.
It was like a sleepover. We were like, okay, I guess we'd come down like at 11 p.m. and watch the showcase for a couple hours and then go back to bed. But this is a weird time. Yeah, so I totally agree. It was a strange way to do it. So I wonder what they're gonna do this year.
Yeah, and in terms of a lot of the giveaways I do, obviously influencers tend to get codes for review for playing for their community. I'm a physical game collector. That's in my soul. So it's like I don't really want a code for me. So at that point, it's like when I would be offered codes, and often I would reach out and be like, hey, I'm not really interested in this for myself. Can I do something fun for the community? And that's kind of how that started, where, I'm always looking to just buy my own physical copy. Like I feel like I'm supporting the developer if I'm buying it.
Yeah.
And I'd rather just do something nice for just the Nintendo community and really others. I do a lot of stuff. I do a lot of giveaways outside of Switch too. But that's kind of really where that started. And, I don't do that for every game. I don't really even do it that often, just if there's something that I feel fits. That's kind of where that comes from.
I want to go back to what Krysta was saying about you and the anniversaries, because you really do have this on lockdown. And we had a bit of a push ourselves when we were at Nintendo to be a bit more active celebrating those. And some we couldn't acknowledge for certain reasons, but we did try hard to get on top of those. And it can be tough. Like, sometimes the data conflicts with each other. Sometimes it can sneak up on you, but you have so many of these. Like, how are you getting all of these anniversaries? Like, do you have some crazy spreadsheet that you spent like a weekend compiling? Like, because I think you are like the number one person that I am aware of who is on top of these.
Yeah, give us the access to the stealth calendar. We want that.
You may have a better calendar than Nintendo does, honestly.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like especially for like the NES, SNES games and systems, like a lot of that is hit or miss because like shipping was like the Wild West back then. And, you know, getting like the actual, when did this actually release isn't always clear. So that's tough. But yeah, honestly, there's really no special formula. There are a bunch of websites that have it. GameFAQs, Moby. I just think it's interesting to share and to kind of celebrate. I don't have a spreadsheet for it. There are websites, everyone has access to it, but not a lot of people really choose to talk about many anniversaries. And even I don't talk about all of them. I just talk about, you know, the really the Nintendo ones, the RPG ones that really speak to me. And today happened to be kind of a big one.
Something that I really appreciate with the milestones is something that Nintendo would never do, is talking about the individual people at Nintendo. So like you've been talking about, you know, Takashi Tezuka reached 40 years. You know, Nintendo's policies really prevent them from putting a person out there and celebrating them that way. So I do want to say thank you for doing that, because those are, you know, the people who have made these incredible games, and they deserve to be acknowledged in a way that maybe the company won't ever really do.
And they do see it. I know they do see it, and they do feel like, you know, happiness and joy when they see the community celebrating their achievements, because it is something that they themselves are not allowed to post about as a Nintendo employee, and Nintendo will never post about it as the corporation. So the only way for them to really get that sense of, you know, maybe a broader sense of what the community thinks and feels about a huge achievement in their life is through something like what you're doing. So it is, you know, a thing that makes a big difference, I think.
Yeah, I mean, especially now, and not so much when I was a kid, but, you know, Miyamoto, when I was a kid, he was like the development god. He was seen as Nintendo. You know, now, you know, he's doing movie projects. He's doing the theme parks. There are other things he works on. He's not really the head of all Nintendo development studios, is my understanding. So, you know, it's important to highlight who's making the games. And especially even then, like Takashi Tezuka, like you look at his resume and it's insane. And, you know, there are other really Nintendo has people like they join Nintendo in Japan, they don't leave. So there's really a lot of developers who have been there 15, 20, 30, 40 years, who do great stuff. But, you know, it's pretty easy to see that they're not on social media. So it's like they can't really say, hey, I've been at Nintendo this long, this is what I've done. So I kind of like to highlight that when I can.
Yeah.
As somebody who, you know, is into, you mentioned the physical games, like really remembering these things and kind of preserving these important details and memories. Like, how do you feel knowing that, you know, NES generation of developers is getting up there in years, and, you know, we may not have a lot more years of them being super active at Nintendo? Yeah,
I mean, it's honestly kind of crazy. Miyamoto did an interview with Toei, the creator of Mother, pretty recently. And they were speaking about how a good portion of the development staff of the original Super Mario Brothers is still at Nintendo. And he was talking about, that's kind of crazy. It's like we're a band, but we never broke up. It's like we're all still here. So, you know, I think a lot of the younger developers have kind of risen up in a way, you know, when we get those, you know, Ask the Developer interviews. For some of them, they are like a lot of the senior team members, but for others, we do kind of get the younger perspective. So it is going to be interesting when, you know, Tezuka isn't involved in 2D Mario anymore, or when Aonuma isn't involved in Zelda anymore. You know, how that's really going to change things. I don't think it's going to change things too much, honestly. But, you know, it is nice that, you know, there's kind of a blend of like newer and younger and older talent there.
Yeah, they have done a really good job of training up that younger generation, and you can tell like that's been an effort by some of the original people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will feel different one day when you look up and it's like, oh, well, Mr. Tezuka's retired, so-and-so's retired, and we are truly in a new era because we have been so spoiled. It's like, 40 some odd years of these people. They're just like mainstays.
Very stable there. And that is the Nintendo way. Even at Nintendo of America, is very much like you're there for life. And it's definitely going to feel different. I'm glad that Nintendo's doing a little bit better in terms of like building a museum and doing better at cataloging their own history, because there will come a time when these people will no longer be there, and their stories and their work and sort of the things that they've been through, if you don't document them and collect those, like they'll be gone. So that's something that I'm glad that Nintendo has started, hopefully, to do a little bit of a better job at just kind of saving all of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when, like the thought of Miyamoto retiring would mean the end of Nintendo. It's like, who would make the games, so, and thankfully it's not that way anymore. I feel like if Miyamoto wanted to retire, obviously people, especially my age, would be sad about it, but the feeling would be Nintendo would move on and be fine. That wasn't always the case. So I think Nintendo actually has done a good job of not being so overly reliant on, the older talent.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to what, we were mentioning about you were noticing different things that were happening during the era of Nintendo when we were there, that Nintendo Direct pattern, for example. I want to ask you, like, what did it feel like? What did Nintendo's relationship with its fans feel like during that kind of first half of the Switch era? Because for us, we were involved in a lot of those initiatives that were meant to have kind of, a fan-facing or fan engagement component. And it feels like these days they've been pulling back from that. But maybe we are not the best people to really judge that. So I want to ask you, kind of comparing these two time frames, like, how does it feel to you?
I feel I've always felt, and I speak about this often, how Nintendo does listen when it comes to like video game revival, series revivals. It might just take 15 years. It might just take a long time. So especially, at the beginning of, the Switch generation, I felt that first year lineup was especially strong. And it felt like Nintendo was very aware of what they needed to do in order to make sure that Switch didn't become Wii U, essentially. So, launching with Zelda, having Mario Kart the second month, having, 3D Mario at the end of the year, having a big RPG like Xenoblade at the end of the year too, and then like Splatoon right in the middle of summer. So, I felt like Nintendo was very, very aware and was going for the win in terms of like, okay, we're going to make this very successful. And we know what kind of games the fans want to see. And I thought there was a lot of delivering there. And then, you guys just recently spoke about it, Paper Mario at the Thousand Year Door, remake. Obviously I wouldn't say fan sentiment about recent Mario RPGs has been that great. So how do you fix that? Oh, you remake two of them that fans really love with, Super Mario RPG, Super Mario Thousand Year Door remake. So, I feel like Nintendo is listening. And, last year or the year before, they brought back Advance Wars. So I feel like their ear is definitely to the fans in terms of the games. It just might take a while to like materialize sometimes.
Yeah, you often hear people lamenting like, oh, Nintendo's a brick wall. Like, we never hear from them. We don't see the people that are there anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, business-wise, it doesn't seem to be hurting them at all. Like, do you want them to do more of that? Do you think they should do more of that? Or do you think it doesn't really matter?
Look, I mean, it depends on who your leaders are. There's only one Reggie. He was very fan-facing. He wanted to be in front of the camera, and that was fine. And like, in terms of like the new Nintendo president in Japan, he hasn't hosted a Nintendo Direct. That's just not his thing. Like it was Iwata's, and then that's fine too. So I think it really just depends. In terms of like Microsoft, they have Phil Spencer, who does a lot of interviews He speaks very freely about things, and for probably various reasons that that's not necessarily possible with Nintendo of America's, of what Doug Bowser can do. So, they might not necessarily be doing, the volume of interviews that maybe fans want all the time, but, I think they definitely do listen where it counts, and that's delivering games pretty consistently. That's what I care about.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that can be such a double-edged sword where it can really feel like a cherry on top when the business is doing well. But when it's not, like using your Xbox example, like I think they feel it even more and they feel a need to, respond in that way. Like the whole response when there was that whole rumor mill of Xbox is going third party. Like it kind of felt like their response to that was a little bit rooted in the sense that they're all out there. They're seen as, we're just like you, we're gamers. So I think that maybe influenced what they were doing. So it does go both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with Nintendo too, the thing that has always been, and when we were at Nintendo and after we left, we continue to see this like push and pull where they really want the games to be the way that people think about Nintendo. And to your point, like that's kind of what, at the end of the day, maybe the fans truly care about, which is like, bring me the games that I love, that I want to play. I know you're listening to me because I'm telling you that these are the games that I want you to continue to make, and you've made them, and they're good. So like that simplicity of it is kind of what they're going for. But I have seen a lot of, Nintendo fans sort of also talk about like, oh, it feels very cold and very like corporate. Like we never, like you were saying too, like we never see, Tezuka, we never see them like out there talking about their work or us getting to know them as people. We just kind of see this like, here's a game coming out. So do you think the fans want like more of that human aspect of Nintendo? Or again, do you think that like, as long as we get the games, like who cares? We're good.
I mean, I think both is important. Like Nintendo Minute, I watched it all the time. Having that kind of, in Treehouse Lives too, kind of seeing what was going on behind the scenes was really important to me. And I think a lot of maybe the feeling cold recently is the byproduct of us being at the end of the Switch generation, and Nintendo gearing up for what's next. Can't talk about what's next yet, but I feel like there's just going to be a lot of interviews, a lot of fan, potentially hands-on time when they're ready. And we're at the end now, where in past generations it would be like where's any game at all? At least now there's at least this year there's been like a game a month. Maybe they're not like the biggest games, but they're still something. So from that perspective, I'm happy. But yeah, I think we got a lot more. We're going to get a lot more like ask the developer kind of things when the new bigger games come out. When maybe if there's a new 3D Mario, we're going to see Koizumi a lot more. He's going to do a lot more interviews. So I think maybe this. The coldness is just like them gearing up.
Something that is, I think, pretty unique about your presence online is that you are very focused on factual information. Like so much of what you were sharing is like, here's the anniversary, it's today. Or, kind of taking what a company has put out there and packaging it in a way that is very straightforward and easy to understand. Like, do you ever have the urge to like, I've got this hot opinion, I need to get this out there? Or are you just a very like Zen, calm person?
Seems Zen.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I do post opinions, and sometimes it goes over well and sometimes it doesn't. I might just get rid of that tweet and say to hell with it. And that's why like probably over the last year, I've gravitated more towards, okay, this is news, or this is an anniversary. You can't get mad at me over that. It's not mine. So yeah, especially on the internet, you need to have a thick skin sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I'm like everyone else. I get it wrong. If I have an opinion, I'm not always perfect, and I make mistakes too. But yeah, I do enjoy kind of helping disseminate like news and anniversaries and things like that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think that you do a good job of, and a lot of people online don't do a good job of, is especially right now where there's the swirl of any sort of sniff of a Switch 2 rumor, it just gets like totally blown out of proportion, or people just have like the most clickbait type of tweets and social stuff out there. You definitely acknowledge rumors and stuff like that, but you're not like as drama when it comes to like leaks and rumors and stuff. How do you like balance that with sort of your audience?
Yeah, if a particular leak kind of makes the rounds on websites, on news sites that I respect, and depending on what it is, I might talk about it, and if it makes sense. Obviously, if there's a rumor that developers have Switch 2 dev kits, that makes sense to me because if they are launching a new system soon, they'd have to have them. Or if it's something crazy like Miyamoto is directing, I don't know, a Pokemon movie or something, I'm not going to talk about it. It really just kind of depends. And I also don't, so if it's a rumor, I don't go crazy. I don't assume it's true until it actually is. So I'll post it. I'll put it out there for everyone to decide for themselves how real or fake it is. And, at the end of the day, we'll find out if it's real.
So we want to wrap up by talking about some games, and you are, again, very firmly in your bio. You love RPGs.
Yes.
What are the RPGs that you have played recently that you've really enjoyed, and is there anything kind of coming up on the near horizon that we should keep an eye on?
Yeah, so I recently, like many people, after over 100 hours, got finished with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Nice.
After that game, I kind of needed a little bit of a break from like the big story RPGs. But yeah, obviously I'm looking forward to Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door remake. That's like one of my favorite games of all time. I've played it at least 4 times in my life, but not like within like the last 10 years. So like there's been enough time where obviously I know everything, but seeing everything fresh and how they maybe change things, like there's a Toad in Petalburg who talks about, who basically markets Fire Emblem.
Yes, I want to know so bad if they're going to change the game.
Yeah.
Or they're going to talk about something more recent. Yeah, I have exactly the same feeling about Paper Mario as you. I'm like, I really want, because they break the fourth wall so much in that game, I really want to know if they've changed any of that stuff to like make it feel modern, So I'm so with you. I'm so excited to find out.
Yeah. So that's a really big game I'm looking forward to. And then, from Atlas, Metaphor ReFantazio is a new game from the Persona team that's coming out later this year. I'm really looking forward to that. And then I would say those are, the 2 biggest games. There's actually a kind of an indie game I'm looking forward to that's coming out at the end of actually next week. Eiyuden Chronicles.
I'm going to play that too.
Yeah.
We have a code for that.
Yeah.
Krista's been playing that.
I've been playing it. I'm excited about it. I have never played this series before, but one of our Nintendo friends we had dinner with, she was like talking it up. She's like, you have to play. This is so good. Glad to hear that you like it too, because that's good. 2 solid points of data for me to get going with this game.
Yeah, Suikoden's been gone as a series quite a long time. So it's nice to have something that kind of brings back those PS1 feelings. And yeah, honestly, it's not even that big, but I am looking forward to playing Luigi's Mansion 2 again in June. I only played it once when it first launched, so I actually don't remember too much. So I am looking forward to playing that. I'm also looking forward to seeing who the actual developer is. That's something that Nintendo has been holding close to their chest lately. And
it's weird though. Why?
Who their partner?
Strange thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that one might be Grezzo because they did do the Luigi's Mansion remake on 3DS, but I don't know. So I am looking forward to playing that. But yeah, there's always just so many games and just not a lot of time to play them.
Yeah.
And then finally, again, you mentioned always like, wanting to get physical games, and we've been going through our DS and 3DS collections, and almost everything DS was physical. 3DS, you started to get more digital stuff. Like, how do you feel now in this era where some things are really digital first? Like, are you just like putting all your effort into like finding where those physical versions are available, or do you feel like this is something that's kind of escaping you?
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, I feel like an old dog that just can't learn new tricks. Where it's, I really just want a physical copy and that's it. And I kind of did the same thing that you guys have been doing. Last year, I played 8 3DS DS games. I went back and was like, you know what? After Tears of the Kingdom, where I put 300 hours into this game, I was really just burned out. And so I wanted like more bite-sized games. So like I was alternating one DS game, one 3DS game, and I was going back and forth. And before I knew it, I had played like 8 games in a summer. So yeah, I do try and prioritize physical collecting as much as I can, doing my very, very, very small part to show developers and publishers that there is still a desire for it. And yeah, if there is a game that's digital only, and even if I really want it badly, I might just wait to see if there is a physical collection or a physical edition down the line. And, obviously if it's an indie game and, there's not really a realistic chance of it coming out physically, I will buy it. But, I like seeing games on my shelf. That's a collector thing. And owning it and things like that. And as it turns out, like physical games many times with sales are cheaper than digital games. So I still see a lot of the benefits of it. And obviously, publishers will do what they want to do. But yeah, I'm definitely still physical collecting forward.
Well, Godspeed with that. I would always prefer physical, but there are some times where I just give in and go digital. So best of luck keeping that going, because I do acknowledge like my collection, when I go back and, one day really look at my entire Switch collection, I have a lot of Switch games, but most of them are just on the system digital. It's not the same.
It's not the same. It is. It definitely. We literally in our other room have like stacks of 3DS and DS games right now because we were going through the collections. Like,
kind of can't do that.
Over like 300 games, I think, in there.
Yeah.
And it's cool to just see them all stacked up like that. And now, you know what? They're very valuable. They're very valuable.
They are, and it's funny because before I would start playing, a DS or 3DS game, especially DS, I would read the manual for 5 minutes. And that kind of brought back that feeling when I was a kid, seeing maybe some key art that wasn't in the game, and things like that. And yeah, a lot of, especially on DS, I cannot believe how expensive some of those games are, especially the Pokemon games. Very, very expensive. And that's why it's like I'm collecting these Switch RPGs because, down the road, like many of them are going to be desirable.
They're going to be rare. Yeah, they're not going to make so many of them, so they will be rare.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this was so much fun. It was great to again, I feel like I've known you for my whole life somehow, but it's our first time, I think, seeing your beautiful face, and it's so nice to just hang out and catch up on all things Nintendo and just learn more about, you and what you do. So thank you so much for being on with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I mean, when you both asked me to come on, it felt like a call from the Justice League,
Assemble!
It's like I had been watching you for a year, so it was just great to finally connect.
Yeah. And if people want to check you out online, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter or X. I don't want to call it X. I'll call it Twitter. At Stealth40K.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had a great time.
Thank you. It was an absolute blast.
And we're back.
I try to look at you to see if it will scare me less.
Wait for it.
But it actually scared me more.
Wait for it.
It was a bad idea to look straight in your face when you said that to me.
No.
I didn't like that. Anyway.
That was fun.
Gosh, I love Stealth so much. He's so great, and it's such a good, reminder of all things that the Nintendo community is just thinking about. And what he said really reminded me to kind of pull yourself away from the drama sometimes. It's at least Nintendo is still giving us games that we want to play. At the simple fact of yes, they are remastering things like Thousand Year Door. That means that they are listening in some degree. So
Yeah.
that was a good reminder for me.
As somebody,
you know?
for you, as somebody who's constantly enraged, I think it's a great reminder.
I'm always enraged.
Why are you always so mad? Why are you so mad all the time?
Stop bugging
What's
me,
going
and
on?
I wouldn't be so mad.
I'm very nice.
Because I'm
I
with
don't-
you all the
I
time,
don't
and you're
understand.
bugging me. That's why.
Next, we are going to talk about some games we're playing. I have Chrono Trigger on the list, but I don't know what we should say. Maybe nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. Check out the spoiler cast. You finished this game?
I did.
Planet of Lana?
I finished Planet of Lana, which I started last week.
Started and finished.
Yeah, it's not.
We didn't talk about this last week at all.
Super long. I think I talked about it like a teensy bit.
Okay.
Anyways, but yes, I started and finished this game. It was my little like breather game between Chrono Triggers. I just finished Chrono Trigger, obviously, and we had the great indie game showcase. And there's been like tons of indie games to check out. This game kind of came out around that time, so I was like fully immersed in my indie game dabble phase.
Yeah.
And started playing Planet of Lana and got completely sucked into it. This is a game that we first checked out at a GDC about a year ago. Last year, yep.
At an Xbox
And-
event. This game is on Game Pass, too.
Yes, this game is on everything.
Yeah.
I played it on Switch. Did chug a little bit on the Switch. So maybe you should play it on a different platform if you have it. The game is absolutely beautiful and basically follows the story of Lana, and you kind of start out like the game kind of tricks you because it starts out you're in this beautiful environment and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna like explore the world. It's so nice, it's so relaxing
cozy.
and peaceful and cozy, and oh my gosh, I love it. And then all of a sudden, like something really traumatic and scary happens, like terrifying. And then you're not in such a cozy mode anymore. You're just like in survival mode. So then it's basically like Metroid Dread, I would say. That is the kind of terror that I was feeling in this game was a Metroid Dread level of terror, like Emmy's
Oh my gosh.
beeping at you and you.
But can you fight back at all?
Sure can't.
So you just need to like run away.
You do a lot of like running away, like tricking them into like tight spaces and trapping them in there.
Oh.
There are these really scary robots that you have to that are in your way and stuff. But you also meet your little like it has a little like friend. I don't even know. It's like a little like it looks like a black jelly bean with a tail.
Oh.
His name is Mooey. He's very cute, and you control both Lana and Mooey. And it's puzzling, like with, sometimes you need to send Mooey up to hit a button or cut a cord so you can climb up a rope, or you need to use Mooey as like bait to distract the robots so that you can run to a different spot and then like you can like, trap the robot. So there's a lot of sort of controlling both characters, which is really fun. Great story, really emotional payoff moments. Obviously, you get very connected to Mooey, and you're like little buddies. Like you're very close, and something happens to Mooey, and oh my god, it was like the end of my world. I was like desperate in my last few hours of the game. Like I was like, I need to figure this out. I don't want to spoil it, but it was a great ending as well. Beautiful, just beautiful scenery, lots of different environments. You kind of start out in like a grassy hillside, and then you end up in like this underground cave, and then a desert. When I was in the desert, it looked like Tatooine. Like honestly, like there's like sort of shadows of what kind of like reminded me of walkers in the background, like the whole like kind of multiple suns, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Even the outfit that Lana is in looks a little bit like Luke in his like little Jedi white Jedi outfit. So it kind of gave me that vibe a little bit. Yeah. It's a really fun game. I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. You guys should play it.
Is Mooey inspired by Mooey from Xenoblade Chronicles? Remember that?
Mooey.
Mooey.
Mooey knows.
That guy looked like a little jelly bean too.
It kind of looked like a little jelly bean.
Making a connection here.
Okay. Mooey's very cute in this game. And he makes little noises, like little cute, like that. It's really cute.
So the next game, you got a code for Eiyuden Chronicles that you have not started yet.
I have not started quite yet, because I wanted to finish Planet of Lana first, and I just finished that last night.
And this is a big Another big RPG.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I was convinced to play this game because one of our good friends at Nintendo was like, I can't wait for this game to come out. This is my next game that I'm playing. And I was like, I've never heard of this game, but I want to check it out. So I'm going to try that out next. But I'm really enjoying just like playing through some of these other indie games. Like there's been so many demos that launched after the indie show, because I know you've checked out a few of those too. But
You haven't checked out all these either?
I have checked out Anton Blast and Europa. I have not yet played Cat Quest 3.
Why not a Cat Quest? I mean, it's just a little demo. Why not?
I was playing Planet Moana.
All right, whatever. Let's talk about these demos.
Europa.
So these were all demo drops following the Indie World Showcase. Europa was a game that really caught our eye.
Yeah.
And it's a really visually
Stunning.
rich
Yes.
and stunning game. So stunning, in fact, that you said it gave you motion sickness.
There's a lot going on. It kind of reminded me of like when we were playing, this is like such a weird comparison, but
Ghost of Tsushima?
yes!
Yeah.
How did you know I was going to say that?
Little particles everywhere.
Oh, that's amazing.
At all times.
Yeah, I was like blasted in the face
Right.
by visuals.
A lot of pollen, a lot of sneezing. Bring your allergy
I feel like I
medications.
need like an inhaler or something. Like give the horse the inhaler, give me the inhaler. But this game is also very visually stunning. It definitely kind of reminds me a bit of the Breath of the Wild style, where it has like a very like painterly quality to it. Very vibrant colors, like that. I think that was one of the reasons why it was hurting me a little bit. You are this little boy, maybe a robot. It has a robot eye. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
And you have this. The movement of this game is pretty interesting, where you have kind of like a jetpack kind of thing, and it allows you to float and hover and sort of glide. So you're really kind of gliding through this world. And the camera was interesting for me. I had to turn down the camera sensitivity a bit.
Turn it down?
Yeah.
Oh, I turned it up.
Oh, do you think that's what?
Because I thought it was very sluggish.
I
the
thought
camera
it was
controls.
too jerky.
There was a bit of and I think this is where your problem came in.
Right.
There's a bit of a delay from when you move the stick to when it actually gets moving. I think it's kind of lurches into movement and then it speeds up. So it's not like boom boom boom
That's
like
interesting
a
how you
more
noticed
traditional
that.
camera control.
Yeah, there's something going on with the camera
Yeah.
that was a little bit challenging for me.
Yeah.
I fiddled with it. I was like, is it because it's too sensitive or not sensitive? I was confused because it was giving me motion sickness.
I
is
didn't
what
get
it was.
motion sickness, but I definitely noticed it was a little different.
Okay.
And I just felt like it was slow,
Oh,
so I
interesting.
turned it
Did
up.
it help you when it turned it up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe I should turn it up.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. The other game that reminded me of is a game that you and I both loved called Haven, where you also have sort of like a jetpack.
Oh, yeah,
you have to. You have to collect energy,
Yeah,
basically, which is
yeah.
what you're doing in Europa as well. And when you run out of energy, you're cannot float or glide or hover anymore to get to those get to some taller areas. So it kind of reminded me of that. And then there is some sort of a story happening. There's your grandfather is is your father?
It seems like you got sent to this new planet because something bad happened to Earth.
You're Superman.
Earth got ruined, or
Yeah. Something like that.
So you get these little
diary pages,
audio diaries,
and this very
it whispers in your ear.
Emotional Swedish man whispers. Could be you. It's funny because I know it's supposed to be loving and sentimental to hear the voice of this person.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of that scary janitor in Alan Wake and Control.
Oh gosh.
Anton or whatever his name is. He's actually helpful in the game, but he still freaks me out. But that guy's voice sounds just like him, and I'm like, oh, it could be a little scary.
Oh.
As mixed feelings on Europa is my point.
So they've got the vibes down, they got the look down. I came away not totally sure what exactly I was supposed to be doing at any given moment. I was I think I'm going
Collecting
to this
stuff.
place, I'm collecting some things, but I was missing something of the drive to what is my next goal?
What's your motivation?
I was missing that a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like that in the full game, but you do get these upgrades for your jetpack pretty quickly. So I had a pretty good, and in the trailer, you're just straight up flying around, which could be cool. So I'm going to be looking at the reviews on this one.
Yeah.
As I'm intrigued, but I wouldn't say that the demo sold me on it.
I agree. There's definitely some maybe personal issues with camera sensitivity, but there's something missing with this game. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it just feels a little bit aimless, like you were saying. And I'm not sure there's enough of a differentiating factor. Like if a game just reminds me of another game, like I need to have something else.
Okay.
You know? That's my takeaway from
Okay.
that. Okay.
Anton Blast is
which
next.
Is a game that we played at Day of Devs around TGAs.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been too long since we've been hanging out with the devs there and talking about and playing Anton Blast.
And this is a game that's very heavy on the indie game events circuit.
That's right.
So
yeah, it's making the
a lot of people are in the know on this game.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, oh yeah, this game is really great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is another one of these games like Pizza Tower that's inspired by the Wario Land games.
Yes.
And I played Pizza Tower last year. The whole Wario Land series is something I want to get a bit more up to speed on. So I've actually been thinking that might be one of my next games to play because they do have some of those on NSO.
Yeah.
Because it seems like, people really like those games, and I do find it interesting that now these games are coming out that are very clearly inspired by that. Having played both of them, Anton Blast and Pizza Tower, I think I like Anton Blast a little bit better.
Nice.
They both have this just kind of unhinged, like Ren and Stimpy-ish visual, cartoony
it's like a little
style.
Gross in
a little
like a
grimy,
really funny way.
A little disgusting in
I
some
like
ways.
it though, like in a good way.
A little loco.
Yes.
In some ways, but that's kind of part of the appeal.
I like it. Yeah.
And yeah, it's like Anton is clearly like
Unhinged.
Wario if you turned up what makes Wario by like 50% or so.
Right. Yeah. The thing I really love about the gameplay though for this game is you feel the heaviness of Anton. Like you just know he's just gonna like smash through this stuff. Like there's like the weight to him that feels really right for this game. That I think it's really difficult to do. So I really applaud them for like really tuning that just right. There's a lot of obviously it's very true to his name. There's a lot of dynamite involved. There's a lot of like blasting through to secret areas, collectibles, backwards traversal, like
so the whole loop of playing the game is like you go progress through the level, get to the end, and then you need to go back to the beginning under some sort of a timer.
That's right.
A time limit. And that's kind of the loop of those levels, which is a little bit different.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to your point about like the moves, like there are some that feel really visceral. Like if you jump and you press the attack button, you'll do this kind of like pogo spin move that I find really satisfying to do. Or there's another move where if you're going down a hill, you can press a button and you like transform into a bowling ball.
Yeah.
Like Battletoads style, and you can keep that momentum going for a while. It also does the thing from the more recent Donkey Kong Country games where you can go into the foreground and the background.
Yes.
And you kind of need to know like, well, to get from this place, I need to go in the back and get past this obstacle and jump back down.
Yeah, it's a little bit of puzzling there.
Right. Yeah. So I think Pizza Tower was more about like, you hold down that button and you're just charging and running at full speed. It seemed to be a bit more about that move, almost like a Sonic game where it's like, keep the momentum, keep moving at all times.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like, you have like the bash, but you're not necessarily all the time doing that. There's it's a little bit slower paced, I think, than Pizza Tower.
I like the more ability to explore. I didn't play Pizza Tower, but I like the ability to have the option of sort of blasting through huge areas, but also slowing down to explore, because there's quite a bit of like secrets and things like that you can collect, and the levels are pretty big as well.
Yeah. But this is really good. I think this game's going to be a big hit. I'm definitely going to pick this up when it comes out.
100%. It's already a big hit.
I forget. Do you remember what the release date was for this?
November, I believe.
Soonish.
Yeah, November.
Well, it's not that soon, actually.
Yeah.
Cat Quest 3 Throw. I cannot believe you did not play this, because this
I will play this next.
This is my favorite of the three by a large.
I think there's multiplayer for this.
There is.
I can't wait to play Cat Quest.
This is now my most anticipated game, believe it or not.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You said to me that you got Wind Waker vibes when you were playing the Cat Quest demo, because now they have the little boat that you can explore.
You get a pirate ship. Yeah.
Fun.
It's got a pirate theme to it.
I love the pirates.
So you are this cat, and like the presentation is it's like you're walking on like a map. So like the scale is like you're walking through this country, but you are this big cat walking through it. Which there's something about that just works. It makes all the areas are very compact, and it's like you can like, all right, I finished everything there is to do here. Let's go on to the next thing. And you get this pirate ship. So you just see all these islands out there, like, oh my god, like
time to explore.
And some of them have like little caves, and you can get treasure. There's like some sort of a challenge, or some of them they have like an enemy fortress that you can try and take down. And the area of the demo is pretty compact, but even in that, there's like a lot of stuff to do. And I was like, this whole loop is just very exciting of, deciding what to do next and what challenge is that going to bring. And yes, I got, all the boat stuff gave me Wind Waker. And then also the Sid Meier's Pirates is also a game that's like that very, very lighthearted, swashbuckling-y stuff, but also exploration and just like, whatever happens, happens. And there'll be a rollicking good time on the high seas and get a sea shanty going.
Arr.
Right.
So it's like couch co-op, or is it online co-op?
I haven't tried it, but I think it's couch.
Okay. Ooh, we should play it together.
Oh yeah, we definitely should. And it's got, the battle system maybe has more complexity than it might get some credit for. So like you can do melee weapons. You also have like some sort of a gun that you can get.
Okay.
And you can get different versions of those. But you also had a magic spell as well. So those seem to be the three main things.
Oh yeah.
And then you're mostly like dodging enemy attacks. So it's definitely, on the simpler side, but within the simplicity, there is complexity that makes it fun. I didn't play Cat Quest 2. I don't know why. I played the first.
I played the first one.
I played the first one and really.
I don't think I played Cat Quest 2 either.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was with that,
interesting.
but Cat Quest 1 was really cool, and this just seems like a much bigger game than that. So yeah, I just got a feeling playing this. I was like, oh, this is great.
When is it coming out?
Well, I've seen some varied information online.
Varied?
About it. Like, one of them said this game is out now.
No.
Cat Quest 3. Let's see. So, yeah,
April 8th.
Is it out on Steam now?
Oh.
Should I just buy this now on Steam?
No, but what about me?
Because I think it was, August 8th.
Oh, August 8th.
2024 here. So why does it say April 17th on the Steam page? Or on this little about section. Maybe they changed, Prepare to Weigh Anchor, August 8th. Oh. Well, that's confusing.
Well, they maybe need to update their Steam page.
Wait, that's also, how many months away are we from August? 5 months? Oh, that's a long time.
No.
What month is it? I'm really bad at time now.
It's like less than 4 months.
It's almost May, right?
Yeah, August is 8, so that's 3. 5 to 8 is 3.
That's still a bit longer
That's
than
a weird way
I would
to
have
do
liked.
some math.
That's still
5 to 8 is 3 is a weird way to do math.
Still a little bit longer than I would have liked. Okay.
Oh, it's so cute. Look at his face. Haha.
But that you need to play this.
Okay, I'm going to do this next. I'm going to do it tonight because I finished Planet Alana.
Really impressed
Wow.
with that.
Okay.
And if people, I'm serious about playing one of these Wario Land games, so if people have a recommendation of one that's on NSO that I should check out, because I don't think I have... I have the Wii, WarioWare Shake It.
Wario Land
Shake It. I have that, but I don't usually see that coming up as like the great ones.
That was the
Maybe
game.
when we go to the store, the retro store tomorrow, we can look.
Yes, that was the game that my first E3. That was my game. I demoed that game for like.
Oh, really?
Like 4 days. It was horrible.
Wow. It was horrible?
No, I was
the
really
game
tough.
or the
game was fine.
The
I
experience?
actually don't remember. The experience was pretty bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways, side note.
All right.
Yes.
That's the games we're playing.
Yes.
Maybe you've noticed these great shirts and sweatshirts that we are wearing. And oh my gosh, that's my face and your face on it. We have some incredible new merch that is available.
I'm going to pass them to you.
A few months ago, we got set up with a new merch partner called Pixel Empire, and we've been working on this whole line of stuff using this great artwork, and the artwork is from somebody in our community.
Yeah.
None other than Frulio. And if you look closely, you'll see all these different kind of icons representing what we're all about. There's us, of course. There's all of our different Patreon tiers. There's stuff like, our custom controller, the plants.
The plant is
the plant's here.
It's very iconic.
Right.
There's like cute little, nods to San Francisco, like the Golden Gate Bridge and the cable car. The God of War axe is here. Or Generic
Yes.
Axe is here.
Not that,
Not,
yes.
Anyways, you guys can figure out all the little details on this, but we have a whole new line. There are sweatshirts, t-shirts. These all come in different colors.
Yeah. Get your favorite color.
Get your favorite color.
Mug, water bottle. You got these notebooks.
The mugs are so cute. They're so big. I love how
You can. There are 2 different sizes.
Two
of the
different
mugs.
sizes, yes. We got notebooks in 2 different colors.
Right.
You can hold up this this is a cool color, green, this like kind of green
Very nice.
color one, but notebooks.
And
I'm a notebook girl, so I was really excited about doing notebooks.
You can get a sticker set with all of these.
Yep, there's
and then
posters as well.
we also just have a print of this
Yeah.
if you like that.
And we have this like really fancy, this is actually like a clean canteen, so this is a legit product. Branded product.
Wow.
This is really nice. This
Right.
is like a really nice water bottle. So all of this is available in our merch shop. We'll put the link in the description and over here. This is actually limited edition. So our whole plan for merch this year is really cool, where we feature community members and artists on our merch. We do it as a limited edition run. This one will run till the end of June, and then we'll put it in the Kit and Krysta vault along with those Pokemon Hearts Gold, Soul, Silver games, and you'll never see it again. So get it now before this limited launch goes away, and then when we do that, and in June we'll change to a new artist.
We've already lined up the next artist.
The next artist is amazing.
Also from our community.
With a really different art style.
Very different art style, yes.
So we'll do another line with this new art, which is exciting to look forward to. But if you want the wonderful Frulio line, the Icons line as we call it, get it now. Get it now before it goes away.
That's right. Okay, let's move on to the questions from our community. Get them all from our Patreon community, in fact. First question's from Caleb. Which of these talking points do you wish would no longer come up in online discussion? Silk Song or folders and themes? Which one are you more sick of?
Oh my gosh. I think if I had to pick between those two, I'm going to pick folders and themes, because it's just such a little thing. Like I don't care. It's like, yes, it's fine. So yes.
I mean,
got it.
Silk Song is an actual game
That's what I'm saying.
That will be coming out at some point.
At some point, Silk Song will come out.
Right. It's not quite Mother 3 level where it's like, yeah, that's probably never happening, but we're going to keep talking about it like it was. At some point, the game will come out, we'll all play it, and we'll all find another game to fixate on in a strange way.
Folders and themes is like, I feel like it's more than folders and themes. It's one of those things where folders and themes represent the current gen Nintendo system's non-customization features.
Right.
It's like people want to customize their stuff. We were able to do it in the 3DS era. Somehow with Switch, they kind of traded that in for performance, which is fine. So I think that's what folders and themes is representing. But the specifics of like getting the folders and the themes, I'm like, please stop talking to me about this.
Yeah, I mean, don't get it wrong. Like I bought so many themes and have so many themes on my 3DS. I think they're cool, but yeah, the extent to which it gets brought up as like everything would be better if I only got themes. It's like I get a little bit fatigued by that because it's like would it really?
Maybe you're projecting folders and themes onto something else that you actually want. I don't know. Yeah.
Doinko's got the next question.
Doinko!
Hey, Kit and Krysta, when the Mii Fighters were announced for Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS, they came with some funny face reveals. Abe Lincoln, Elijah Wood, and Ice-T. I'm curious how these 3 likenesses were chosen and by whom. Were different celebrities chosen in different regions? Thanks, as always, for an awesome show.
Yeah, we had a whole push around the 3DS, like, Mii era, or like the Wii U 3DS Mii era, where there was a whole team, and this was part of our team at the time at Nintendo, the celebrity team, that did like license agreements to celebrities to get their likeness for Mii's that we could use for marketing purposes. And it was like a whole global push, like the different regions had their own celebrities that they were going after. We were also like looking at, different sort of rights-free type,
Abe Lincoln
imagery that we could use that would make sense. But yeah, we literally sent out like license agreements to celebrities. We would make their Mii's. Like we had a team on the art team, like the graphic design team at Nintendo that would make the Mii's. and we would send it to them, to their team for approval and everything, and they would come back with, sometimes they come back with some really weird comments. Make my lips bigger. I'm like, oh, she must have gotten injections.
Oh,
But yeah, that was like a whole push that we did. Now, I actually also did this thing, that was a lot of work, where when we first sent out the media mailer, we customized each one of their letters with their me. So I had to
For what game was this?
I think it was just for like a generic like 3DS, like the hardware.
Like when you got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we would have like this little letter, like dear so and so from IGN.
I remember this now. Yeah.
And I was on like a plane. I was like on like a 5-hour trip to New York, and the whole way there for like 5 hours, I basically was like copy and pasting me's and the letter into these like Photoshop files so we could like print them for media. But me's were a big deal.
Yeah.
Like back in the day. I miss how big of a deal me's were, and I want me's to come back in a big way. But yeah.
You remember there, was it Mario Sports Mix?
That's
There was
another
one where we did the
yes.
same sort of thing where we got,
With athletes.
I think we got like Shaq and some other people.
That's right.
That was the scope of the agreement, was like just the me.
Just the me.
It's not like we had Shaq in an ad or
Nope.
Shaq doing all these other
Just
things.
want your likeness for a me.
We just want
Yeah.
that for the me, which was an interesting, very focused approach.
We made a fake Wheaties box with like Shaq on the Wheaties box.
Yeah.
For Mario Sports.
Me-tees?
Like me-tees. But it was like like a fake like life cereal, like one of those things,
Right.
because it's like a sports theme. But we did it with a me of that celebrity. It was fun to do all the me stuff.
Right. Were there different people in different regions? I don't think Abe Lincoln was maybe
in Europe.
a big get for Europe.
Maybe it was like Napoleon or
I
something.
imagine there was.
Do they like Napoleon?
Unclear. Next question is from Jeb. Hey, Kit and Krysta, I was wondering if there are any games that you think maybe haven't stood the test of time, but you still find yourself coming back to due to nostalgia or sentimental value. For me, a lot of Nintendo 64 games hold a special place in my heart since I grew up with them, and they've basically been a part of my entire life. Mario Kart 64 in particular comes to mind. I definitely don't think it's the best Mario Kart, but something about the simplicity of it and things like the sound effects and music are very comforting to me every once in a while.
Oh yeah, I think I have a Mario Kart game too. It's SNES Mario, Super Mario Kart.
The original.
The original.
Yeah.
That one was one that I had such rose-colored glasses because that was my first Mario Kart game.
Yeah.
And I thought that I loved this game, but now that I go back to play it, I'm like, this game is impossible. Like this is too hard.
It plays unlike any other Mario
not
Kart,
very
yeah.
good. It doesn't.
I don't know if I'd say that.
I don't like it very much. Like it doesn't jive with my current way
Right.
of playing Mario games. Like whenever I go back to Super Mario Kart, I'm always like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to play this game at all. You
Right.
know, like it's so unlike what a Mario game is now, a Mario Kart game is now. But yeah, I have such nostalgia and I have a huge, soft spot in my heart for SNES games. And that's definitely one of them where I'm like, how did I even play this game when I was little? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is it's very hard to separate your own feelings and experiences and nostalgia that you might have for a game versus like in this moment, like, is this a fun game to play?
Right.
And I think a lot of games like are put in that position. Like if you had somebody who's 11 years old now and said play this game, that's why those videos of like teens react to blank
And they're like, ew, this sucks.
are so like they get people going either way because it's like, oh, you kids don't know, you weren't there, this was awesome. Or it's like, yeah, this sucks, boomer grandpa. Like, why were you wasting your time with this?
Oh no.
Like either way, people are gonna want to get into that conversation.
And like cause some drama.
Right. So
Cause a stir.
a video series I've been watching and enjoying is Jeff Gersman, formerly Giant Bomb. He's been doing this series where he plays every NES game and ranks it. So the videos are really long. Each video is like 3 hours. I fast forward through some of it, but he'll play about 8 games in a video. He does one every week. And he has a running ranking list.
Oh, wow.
So he's like, I'm trying to eliminate this bias that I have.
His own bias.
Right. of did I play this as a kid? Like, what was my feeling then? Because like I'm playing these all back to back. I am experiencing them all in this moment.
Oh, wow.
So I'm trying to flatten that out.
Oh, that's so interesting. What a good experiment for him to run
It's really
himself.
interesting. Yeah, I'm about. I started watching these late. He's got about 150 games done.
Oh,
and
wow. What a commitment.
His current top 3 is...
Zelda?
No, he hasn't done any Zelda games yet.
Oh, okay.
The way he picked, I'm not sure how he picks it. I think he has his community like help him choose what he does in each video.
Sure.
Number 1 is Bionic Commando. Number 2 is the original Super Mario Brothers. He's not done any other Mario games. And then the third one I think is Rygar, which I kind of raised an eyebrow at that one, but again, I didn't have Rygar growing up, so I don't know. But that's felt relevant to this question.
That's so interesting because we do certainly have those biases, and if you don't go back to do it like he does it, I think you'll never erase those biases from.
But maybe you don't need to.
Maybe you can just hold on
I think
to
for a lot
good
of people,
memories.
it's nice to have a nice memory of something.
I know.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Living your sentimental childhood memories.
Palsy Pace is next. Hi, Krysta and Kit. Nintendo sends out a lot of surveys for feedback on games, and it definitely seems they actually look at these based on historical interviews, but I have noticed recently I get surveys even for third-party games. I was wondering, do you think the results of these actually get back to the third party? For example, I just filled out a survey for the new Prince of Persia. Does Ubisoft get that feedback eventually?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. They take these surveys pretty seriously, actually. They used to surveys us all the time internally too. And yeah, these surveys will get back to the third parties. They do read and take the surveys seriously. We'll see the results of the surveys show up in marketing campaigns too as like data points. Like, oh, we surveyed the community and they said such and such, so we should consider that for marketing campaigns.
I mean, this is a great win-win for Nintendo because you are seen as doing a solid for your partner of like, let us gather this information from our players that we will give to you. We will do you this service. But then on the flip side, it's like we have the data. We have the Ubisoft data ourselves.
They want the data.
So I mean, a lot of
they're collecting it. From
data is like such a valuable thing.
It is.
In the industry. Like people often have hesitations of what will they share? What do people need to know?
Right.
Who will it get shared with? But if you do it this way, you just got it.
Right.
And
you volunteered it.
Right.
You gave them.
Right. So this is why it's a win.
information.
That's what makes it a win-win. Absolutely.
Yeah. They're collecting other stuff about you though, but you basically you're giving them a lot of yourself, Palsy Face. Like you gave them the actual the survey that they asked you to fill out. I don't fill those surveys out. And then they're tracking everything that you're doing on that system, so they know a lot about you.
Well, that's modern life, isn't it?
It's modern life.
Literally,
It's okay. I'm not trying to scare anybody.
Literally everything is tracked.
It's funny, like people
by every possible service
yeah,
and device.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love the people that are like, they can't track me. I'm like, are you sure about that? Like, literally everything you do is tracked.
It's tough.
So, yeah.
The Natrix is next. Krysta and Kit. Kit and
Krysta.
Kit and Krysta, can you tell us more about the personality test Nintendo would make you take and why they ended in tears?
Oh.
Do you remember any of your results from the test and care to share?
So this
who was in tears over this?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
This question stemmed from the recent game that we all saw in the Indie Game Showcase, which is basically like a game personality test.
Right.
And I not jokingly, said that this is a mandatory game that everybody in our community will have to play when it comes out so we can all share our personality test. I was kind of joking, but I kind of wasn't either. I kind of want us to all do this together. I think it'd be really fun. But this was something that we used to do at Nintendo all the time. Like our team and lots of other teams would do these big offsites, probably twice a year. And whenever we do an offsite, we always have to do some kind of personality test. Isn't that weird? Like, there's always some kind of personality test situation.
I think it's helpful to know what's making everybody tick.
Yeah. So this was like a very sort of common thing. Every time we had an offsite, you could kind of expect to take a personality test, and they were all different. I can't remember specifically the test. The Myers-Briggs is a famous one. The Enneagrams are a famous one. I think we took Myers-Briggs one time. But we took this personality test once where one of our coworkers, she was on our team, I won't say her name out loud. And she took the test. We all took the test, and we all got results. And her result, her like personality map, was the exact same as. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Oh boy, was the exact same as our boss, whom we all kind of had like some issues with at the time. Like this person was like a classic micromanager, and we were just having a tough time like managing up.
And she got the same thing.
And her and him got like, it wasn't even like you are, number 3 personality. They like mapped it with this little graph.
Right.
Where it had like these little points of like where you were. And if you lay their maps on top of each other, it was identical.
I love this.
And she had like a breakdown. Like I'm not exaggerating. I'm not trying to be like funny, but she like really took it really hard. Because she could not grasp for herself. She's like, how can I be exactly like the person that I hate? Do people hate me? Because we, at this time, this kind of situation got a little bit better and worse, like sort of ebbed and flowed. But at this point in time, like that, our whole team, we were like really not having it with this boss. Like we had a really hard time. And we were just, like all of our relationships were like really frayed. And she just was feeling it. Like she was like, I can't believe that it matched up this perfectly. That means that him and I are like exactly the same. Like everybody must hate me too. How can I have the same exact personality as someone that I absolutely hate and do not respect at all? And she was like weeping. And I was like, let me tell you that I did not get his
Pat on the back.
Yeah, it was one of these. Like, there. It must be so hard for you. She did have some similarities to him, though. Like, this is why they butted heads even more than you and I butted heads with him.
Right.
Because they would be at each other, and they'd be so similar, they would, like, dig in on the same stuff. They'd be stubbornly digging in like on the same issue, but they're coming at it from like the same way.
Wow.
So it really like, it was kind of like a told you so kind of situation, but also like, are you cool? So yeah, that like was a real thing that happened. The other one that was really funny was when we took the personality test that made us all Star Wars characters.
That's the one I wanted to talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So this was years later, another offsite. We're going to do a fun personality test where you're answering serious questions, but then we will compare your result to a Star Wars character to really like make it clear, like help you understand what this means.
Okay.
And we all did it. And what did you get? What character did you get?
Princess Leia.
You got Princess Leia. Great. So you're like heroic and
normal.
Okay. I remember you often got the same result as our overall team boss.
She also got Princess Leia.
Right. I'm still a little baffled at this one. Uncle
Owen, yeah.
Who, last we saw of Uncle Owen, he was a piece of charcoal on the side of the road in Tatooine. So I got the same rating as another guy on my team. I was like, what is this? Uncle Owen? What?
Yeah, you guys were kind of similar, though.
Yeah,
you and that other guy were really similar.
He and I were alike, and we got along really well.
And I really liked him too. Like, we were all good friends, and I was like, oh, of course you get the same as Kit.
I was like, okay, I don't know what this means, but if we're on the same page,
yeah,
I remember.
Cool. I remember. I was thinking like, what? Why Uncle Owen? But then I was like, okay, I understand.
But the thing that was most notable was we had 3 people who were like the 3 functional leads of our team. And they all got the same rating, and the character that they were compared to was Darth Vader. So, great message to send to the team. The Dark Lord of the Sith is doing your performance review, and he might force choke you at any given time.
And this was also the boss that we all had a problem with before.
And the other 2 bosses. So it was just like a real crickets in the meeting kind of moment.
Like, how did they all get the same thing?
Well, that's interesting information.
Like, literally years later, we all joked around about this. Like, how did our boss end up with 3 Darth Vaders? Like, what the heck,
and it was like, well, you're very authoritarian. You have to have things your way.
Certain way.
Right.
Yeah,
you don't listen.
You seek to control people was one of the ones. And all of us just sat around. Like, we were sitting in, like, this big circle. And I was just like... I don't think anyone cried at that one because they all were in denial, and they probably still are.
Man.
Good stuff. But that was pretty funny. But I really do think that we should play the personality test game, though, when it comes out, and we can all figure out who we are most like and if we're like each other, and maybe someone will cry. We'll see.
Self-awareness is a great skill to have.
It is.
Like, I learned that I'm introverted. Wow, I didn't know that. Like, yeah, I knew that.
Well, I mean, it's for someone else to know about you.
I'll tell you that. I know this. I'm open about that. But
I'm
yes,
introverted.
Good to know. Last question from Tuskoob. Hi, Kit and Krysta. This is not something that really happens anymore or something in the later part of your time at Nintendo, but what was it like when you knew a game was coming out in Japan but would not get localized? Were you ever part of discussions whether to bring a game over to the West or not? Was it assumed that games would or would not come out by default? Was it always NOA's decision, or did the decision to localize games or not ever come from MCL? I'm specifically curious about Fire Emblem New Mystery of the Emblem 2010 for the DS. You were both at Nintendo by then and have mentioned being a big Fire Emblem fan, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that case, especially.
Yeah, this was a big change. Like sort of halfway through our careers at Nintendo when we started to do more global releases, and beyond that, like even like global timed announcements, everything became really like coordinated between all the regions. But it wasn't always that way. There were so many times, like this is a good example, where Japan would get something that was Japan only. Like they even got like hardware that was Japan only, those faceplates, you know, like those kinds of things that were Japan only. And I think at the time they really kind of explained it to us as like, and we kind of knew this too. Like this is what the company mentality was. Like every market is different. We need to market products specific to our market audience. And we sort of all accepted that as like fact, you know, like, yeah, that's true. And there might be like a vocal minority that's like, I want Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem, you know? But that might be a very small audience, and so it's just not worth it from a business perspective to bring a game like that over to the Americas. But then like after that transition happened, then you kind of realize, oh, like, you know, it goes beyond sort of the market size of a certain game. It's more about like your brand and sort of accessibility to all your brand's products and all that stuff. So it was an interesting learning experience making that transition at the company.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a fact of the industry that not every game you see is going to be released in your region. Mm-hmm. And I'm really glad that we got over it because there are a lot of games that we wouldn't get. I remember seeing, it was either E3 2009 or 2010, the first Xenoblade Chronicles was there. It was called Monado.
Yes, Monado.
And you would ask, like, so what's that? And like, oh, that's Japan only. Don't worry about that. The Japan team will do what they need to with that game. Make sure you don't bring, you know, if you're doing a booth tour, don't
bring them over
don't
here.
bother taking them to see that because it's not going to be coming out. And obviously it did. I mean, we got a lot, you know, the whole Project Rainfall experience was eye-opening for the company. And pretty immediately they saw the results of like, oh yeah, there's an audience for these games. Mm-hmm. And they had to do some legwork within the localization globally to figure out how all this stuff gets done, but they figured it out.
Right.
Which is good. You know, as far as how those decisions were made, it was always a very shadowy thing. There was a team at Nintendo that made those sorts of decisions that we were not a part of. That was a very executive-heavy group, and they would, you know, analyze the market and the, you know, the potential audience size and all of that stuff. And I mean, it was like flipping a coin. Like sometimes these were the right decisions, sometimes they weren't. I mean, they were doing things more than just they were choosing like how many units should we make,
right?
And what should the release date be, and how much should it cost, and all of those decisions. So we never had a direct voice in that. It was always like, well, I wonder what. But I mean, like these big RPGs. Or these series that were just long time in Japan, like nobody had an expectation that they would start to come out in America. So like this, you know, Tuskoo's example of this Fire Emblem game, like I don't recall any specific discussion of that at all ever.
I don't think so. Yeah, it wasn't really something to be discussed. It was like something that you were told. Yeah. Like these are the games that you're marketing, and you would see that Japan had their own thing. We may be prepared with a Q&A here or there, but it was very like accepted. You know, until we made that shift into becoming like a more global company. And of course, you know, once there was things like Project Rainfall, there was things like the success of Awakening that really opened people's eyes to different opportunities with these games. Until then, it wasn't really like something that we even were super aware of. Like, we were just like, I accept that this game is not coming out here.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really glad that that's not really the case anymore. And we really don't have to worry about, I mean, even indie games come in so many languages now. They're all global. Like, thank goodness we have that as a precedent now.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not that long ago.
I know.
But it feels like a very distant
dated.
memory. I think we've all just been glad to move on from that time because things are so much better now. We've got so many games.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody who sent in a question. We also got a bonus Q&A exclusive to Patreon. Check it out.
Yeah.
Time to do some Patreon shout-outs, yes?
Let's start with this is the best boss ever. If my personality matches with this boss,
There he is.
I will not be crying. Here he is, Aaron Hash. Thank you for being our best final boss. All right, some superstars, yes?
Yes.
Ben Eichhorn,
MaruMayhem,
Eigenverse,
KissMyFlapjack,
Mike Chin,
Roy Eschke,
Switching It Up, _
vgmlife,
Link, the hero of wins,
Angela Bycroft,
Thomas O'Rourke,
Kyle LeBoeuf,
Roberto Nieves,
Fredrik Ulf Konradsson,
Andrew Youhas,
Chili,
Brustache,
and Simon.
yay! And here we go with our One-Up Club graduation ceremony. Aaron Burgundy,
Ale Alejandro,
Archimedes,
AstroDev,
Awesome46,
Bad Moon Horizon,
Ben GB,
Bookem Dano,
Bookishly Fab,
Brad SF56,
Brandon Cavapil,
Brooke Obscura,
Brovak Novak,
Called the Space Cowboy,
Cameron,
Chadir,
Chelly Squirrel,
Chris Q,
Christopher Lay,
Captain Alex,
Crim Cat,
Cristobal,
C Roper 17,
Dachshund,
Doinko,
Elite Peach,
Esbarts 50,
Fart Priest 69,
Furbound,
Fernie and Jess Forever,
Fox Deploy,
Garrett Hullfish,
Garth the Wolf,
Gartooth,
Heroic,
Iris Merritt,
Jay Rando,
Jeffrey Hernandez,
Jerry 92602,
Jesse Hernandez,
Joe Encarnacion,
Jonathan Rowe,
Jordan Collette,
Jordan Hammerly,
Joshua Clements,
Juji Fruit,
Justin Lemminger,
Kawa 2796,
Keith Kwan,
Kevin Delane,
Kilo Kibo,
Christopia Party With Me,
Kyle Gamer Barry Rookie,
Kyle Kretzer,
Lazy Cat for Coffee,
Lex,
Lit,
Macho Potato,
Mad Dog 5981,
Magnificent Easy G and Callie Marie,
Marky Man 64,
Mario Man 392,
Mecha Dragon 101,
Medallion,
Megan,
Michael Craven,
Mikey,
Mr. Ryan 07,
Motomania,
Mr. Andy Palm,
Mr. Beans and Dip,
MSM Poke Gamer,
My Tran,
Nasir,
Nathan Burkhart,
Niaf E,
Ninja 11,
Panda Buns,
Pangy,
Palsy Pace,
Paul Gale Network,
Prime Factor,
Prince Charmless,
Reaver,
Rain Tech,
Record Rumble,
Rob Osborne,
Rocks,
Rhinetta,
Sakura Sky,
Sharif Jackson,
Sheer Cold Vanille,
Shinryu,
Schmiggles,
Slowbro,
Snazzle,
Spicy Munchkin,
Steel Citron,
Tales of Link,
K120 N64,
Teal Fox 64,
The Keggers,
The Shark Among Men,
Thomas Alvarez,
Three Rivers,
Timmy V,
Topher Schmofer,
Torcheeks,
Totally Joe Ed,
Travis Torline,
Trajawi,
Tugs Puppy Bear,
Tusku,
Tyler Geis,
Video Game Stupid,
Vidgmictor,
Viridian,
Virtual Bot,
Veeb Kingdom,
WG Grizzy,
What Up Khalil,
YU,
Wicked Davy,
Will Johnson,
Zelgaroth,
Zapati.
and Zeroid.
I like how Doinko, Snozzle, and what's the other one? The spacing is that one person never gets to say all three.
Yeah, for now.
It's like the power is evenly distributed amongst the two of us. Because I would be upset if you did all three at once.
The universe seeks to balance.
Yes.
Joe
Encarnacion. Let's get that out there right now. Joe Encarnacion. I'm gonna do you next week. I got this down.
I'm so sorry.
This is the second week.
I can't breathe. All right. If you would like to join us, we're at patreon.com/Kit and Krysta. All of our Patreon is what keeps this podcast going. So thank you to all of our Patreon family members for all of the support. We offer so many exclusives on our Patreon, including behind the scenes, bonus Q&As, the spoiler cast, and tons of other stuff. So join us, please.
If you're watching the video version of this episode on YouTube, you can please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and leave a comment. We love those. And if you're listening on audio, you can also subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and a written review, if you please.
And we're on the socials. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Threads. All right, another episode in the books.
Wrapping it up, thanks to our special guest, Stealth40K.
And we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.